we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
It's the first Friday of the month. Hop on the Woo train, people. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection with special guest Nicole Sakach. Oh, tonight's going to be a power show for all of you. How y'all doing? My name is Dave Scott. There is Nicole, and there she is. Say hi, Nicole. And there's a good wave. And there's Keith coming on in. As we'll just throw that back there for a second. How y'all doing? Good to have you here. Let's go through the roll call tonight. Race fan in the gold medal position, back on top. Mama Susan with the silver, and Erismana taking home the bronze. There's the gorgeous Cosmic Floor. Todd Purdon, stunning Samantha, thank you for coming on in. Steam Train Mark, thank you for letting me know that I am alive tomorrow in the future. And B, Nikki, our favorite psychic from Seattle. Mark Longoria. Gorgeous Kathy Evans, nice to see you all.
Hello.
Raven is Ryan. Mennonite Abe, our favorite Marine, Black Dragon. There he is. We love our veterans around here. Al Menial is here. He'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Fast Hemi's back. He'll be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Hi, Luscious Jules. Nice to see you. Wes H. The Lip Blade. What is happening, buddy? That tightly waxed stash is looking perfect tonight. Yep. Rui, nice to have you here. TMI, the gorgeous Teresa. Uncle Dale and his power stash are here. Remember, if you see Uncle Dale in Austin, Texas, rub his power stash for good luck right through tax time. Yay, how are you? Thanks for coming on in. TMI, always a pleasure. Richard Elmore, always good to see you here. There's Oscar Lindqvist. There he is. Good to have you here, man. Nicola, nice to have you here. And who else do we have? Our man Enzo, Millennium, Rayfin. Nice to have you all here. The gorgeous Lara, thank you for joining us. And who else is here? The stunning Carla has returned. The gorgeous Pinzer Flactum. The stunning Pam Smith. Mr. Lurks-a-Lot looking stunning as well. Hi, Grandma. Hi, Grandma. Hi, Grandma. Oh, look who it is, everyone. It's Doug Shelby. The Doug Shelby. Sweet Donna C., $5,900. Mr. Crowley, nice to have you all here. Continuing on with roll call tonight, Mike Roberts. Way to go. Thanks for coming on in. There's our man, My Flock. Thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. Very much appreciate your support of Spaced Out Radio. Remember, the super chat is a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis, so thank you so much. Moonlit Kevin, Obi Flett, how you guys doing? The gorgeous Jenny, nice to see you. And Travis DeLuca, always a pleasure, my man. Christoph, otherwise Brazelhoff, whatever your Hoff name is, there he is. Donnie Cho, thanks for joining us again, my friend. Amy, Vegas, looking gorgeous tonight. She'll be at our Vegas party. Digger Dog, Robert Garcia, good to have you guys here. The Michael Leger is here, everyone. The Michael Leger. Props, good to see you. April, May, June, looking lovely for April. And who else is here? Let's see, John Slaymaker. Thanks for joining us. Flash Forward, thank you so much for that wonderful super sticker. Very much appreciate your love and support of SOR. Let's start the radio side here because we kind of need that. All right, there we go. The gorgeous and talented Kira, nice to have you here. And Far Flung, always a pleasure. running out of time. The Unknown. How you doing, buddy? Nice to have you here. Flash forward again. Thank you for joining us. Awesome Man Palmer. Good to see you. And who else is here? Out of Place. Welcome to SOR chat. Got like 30 seconds. Goober Bear in the studio. Nice to have you here. Bad Comic Reviews. Good to see you. Brian Drummond, thanks for coming on in. And anybody else? The gorgeous Nicole Sakach. There she is. And who else is here? Diesel Girl, the Fraser Valley Raspberry herself, and Sensational Sherry rounds it out. We got like 8 seconds here. I'm going to need a favor if you guys don't mind. I need you to raise your horns. Let's do this. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a wonderful show for you tonight. It is time to board the Woo train with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection with special guest Nicole Sakach tonight. As well, in hour 3, we're going to head to the swamp with Swamp Dweller. The fedora-wearing John Hudson will join us with the UFO report. Shirky Poo's got the news as well. Near the beginning of each month, we are joined by R. Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. The Kelowna, BC native is a lifelong ET contactee who has had all sorts of contact with over 50 different species of extraterrestrials. Keith now uses his knowledge that he has gained from the ETs to help counsel and help those who have had their own contact and break it down so they understand what they are personally going through. Also joining us tonight is a good friend of this show, Nicole Sakach, researcher and author, everything UFOs. I mean, she is brilliant when it comes to everything in this field. She's an experiencer as well. We love having both of them on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring them on in here. R. Keith Andrews, Nicole Sakach. It's always a pleasure to have you here on the big show. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, Keith.
Thank you very much for having me. And, greetings to everybody out there.
And Nicole, good to see you.
Hi, Keith. Nice to see
Hey, Nick.
you. Dave,
Nice
always
seeing
a
you.
pleasure. Dave,
You've been hiding.
I've been
She-
hiding in the kitchens and the bowels of the restaurant at the end of the universe. Your buddies
Good,
caught by.
Now, Keith, right before we started here tonight, I was telling you about the UFO I saw a couple of nights ago. And I was telling you about how it was 3 orbs flying in along the same line, same direction, and they were not very far apart, my friend. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I have. That's why I was wondering, because there's one of 2 possibilities. Okay, one is depending on how wide they were, I'd be inclined to say you were looking at a single ship, likely a hunter. In other words, a research ship coming in looking for samples. But that one does not feel like it was looking for abductions. Because people are not the only thing these guys pick up.
You know what I found funny about it, my friend? Is when I was in San Francisco last weekend, I had a regression with Geraldine Orozco. And one of the questions that I wanted to know was why they shut me down. Now, I don't recall the answer just yet. I haven't heard the tape. I'm waiting for her to send me it. But all of a sudden, like 3.5 days later, boom, here I'm getting some aliens again.
Well, that makes sense. You had enough going on. Remember, I mentioned quite some time back that they were actually watching what you're up to?
Yes.
Well, there was so much going on with the show, with your business, that they didn't feel that it was really fair to have you sidetracked by that side of things. Let you get the show back in line.
Well, maybe that's it. I don't know. Nicole, what do you think?
Well, do you remember the text I sent you earlier today? I said they were never really gone. So that's a little bit of what I think, but I have more questions. So were they in a line like vertically, horizontally, straight line?
Straight across horizontally.
Were they colors? Were they popping those lights? What were they doing?
They were white. All
And
three of
then
them.
Poof gone, or did you have to come back inside before they were gone?
No, they disappeared before I went back inside, and they were real close together. Okay, it wasn't like there was a big distance apart. Like, it'd be like orb, little space, like an inch, and then an orb, and then an inch, and then another orb.
And they were the same size.
Probably something closer to probably something closer to 50 yards, but we get the idea.
Yeah, from an Earth point of view.
Yeah.
Were you in a happy moment? Were you having like a good time when you went outside? Were you like, yeah, this is a good show? Like, look to the sky and there it is? Or
that was the night I interviewed Stormy Daniels.
Heck yeah, good show.
It was a good show and a good night, so I'm pretty happy about it. I was in a good mood.
Maybe they came by to say hi to Stormy.
Well, God knows they've been watching quite regularly. I'm just waiting for Carl to get ungrounded.
Oh, my goodness. It's always about Carl. Always bringing Carl up. Keith, you are someone who is out there as a lifelong ET contactee who hangs out and tells people and helps people with your YouTube channel and in personal readings about what they're going through. How many people you think you've counseled over the years?
Bearing in mind, I started when I was about 10 across the field. I don't know about this specific field, but across the field, like as in every topic that I've worked with, I'm looking at in excess of 80,000.
That's people all over the world.
That's people all over the world from every walk of life.
Keith, do you ever counsel ET on human problems?
Oh yeah.
Like what are some of those scenarios?
One of the biggest problems they run into is trying to understand how humans can quite readily. The best way I can put it is push buttons until something happens and think this is normal, safe behavior. This is one of their biggest concerns. I mean, for example, you take a standard laptop, you put it out in front of the Aborigines in Australia, right? And this applies to anybody that's low tech. They will poke at it, they'll thump on it, and eventually they'll figure out how to make it do something. But the ETs look at it going, that's great if the thing won't split a planet in half if you push the wrong button. But the ones that worry them the most is the hackers. Because hackers have a tendency of going, I want into that because I'm told I can't. Because I'm told I'm not allowed to be in there. And with the ETs, with humans, you're not allowed in there, and they say it's for your own protection. Problem is with humans, when they do that, it's actually for their protection. With the off-worlders, they will not let people on the whole run around a ship without supervision because of mankind's general propensity to push buttons just to see what'll happen.
Well, You know what? We get into questions right off the bat here on this show. We do this one a little bit different. And we got a question right off the bat from Flash Forward here for you, Keith. And that is, what aliens use holograms to disguise their ships as clouds? Great question, Flash Forward.
And they don't actually use holograms to do it. They ionize the clouds. The clouds just simply form around their hulls. But the consortium itself is really good at that. The grays out of Zeta Reticuli are phenomenal at it. And of course, if you ever run into the Maldocs, they do it just on principle. And that's just 3 of them. But most of that cloud formation is literally ionization of the atmosphere. It's kind of like if you're, how ice forms on a plane, say, at higher altitudes. Same idea, but in a slightly more diffused atmosphere.
Nicole, what do you think about UFOs hiding themselves as clouds?
I wouldn't necessarily count it out because I follow more of the lines of you see what you need to see. And then I don't know, like you hear these, I don't want to say crazy stories, but you hear these tales of whether it's like government secret tech that can control certain aspects or elements of the weather. And so my brain lingers to, is that found technology that they're manipulating for their purposes? Or is it really ET ships that can do amazing things and cloak themselves as whatever they want, whether it's a cloud or airplanes or fighter jets, geese. You come across it all. Thunderbirds.
Oh, you do. Actually, it's funny. I saw one the other day, and I just about had a coronary. It had nothing to do with a ship, but it was unidentified by most people. Right, and you might call it a cryptid, but I looked at the thing, and there's no question what it was. It was a pteranodon, which, by the way, should have been extinct about 75 million years ago.
Right. So that makes me wonder if it's like a dimensional space-time echo.
Well, we can
echo.
Technically, it's possible that it's an echo because you can move forward in time. You just can't move backwards.
Right. Is it possible to hack time, Keith, and create I think what is called a time loop? So you necessarily wouldn't be going back or forward, but like looped in the same spot.
That's called hacking the neural net, not hacking time. You can make somebody relive what they're going through. This is where psychological programming comes in.
So it's more of a psychological thing than a true fabric of space-time thing. Gotcha.
Space you can absolutely rip open. But space and time are two very different calculations.
All right, let's get to Sweet Donna C's question here. Are there beings that are bear-like physically and operate ships, Keith? Here we go.
The answer to that, well, try that again, Dave. I got the question, but I heard something after it.
Oh, I said, here we go. This is where the woo begins, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they are. I'm trying to remember. Oh, that's what it is. They are another one of the Therianthropes out of. I believe they're actually situated in what most people call Lyra. Oh, okay. There's a lot of Therianthropes, which are various animal appearing off-worlders. Right. Your Wara would qualify as a Therianthrope. Looks like an ape, is not an ape. Right. But yeah, the bear-like, and there's also the thing is, there are some that run ships. There are also other ones you'll find that are ancient race. They're a very, very old sect of people. Many people would have called them way back in I guess to be about 300 BC, what were then termed as druids. They had the capacity to shift shape, to shapeshift quite intentionally, but they're not an off-worlder. They're an ancient race, or more to the point, they're an ancient sect. And they're very definitively protectors of Esau, of what you would call Gaia. Or Earth, take your pick.
Nicole, what's your thought? Bear-like aliens.
I'm sorry. I'm a child that grew up in the early 80s, and all I can think of is like the Care Bear stare, or wherever they launched that thing out of their chest. And they're sending love throughout the universe. That and Ewoks, but I don't know. They had gliders. They didn't have.
No, but they were carnivorous.
Hey, me and my son love their technology when they wing those rocks and that one hits himself in the face. So
those rocks are called bolas.
There you go. Winging your bolas around.
Keith, Kevin wants to know if you're comfortable discussing whether or not you have hybrid offspring.
I'm going to really annoy Kevin. Probably, I don't have. I don't have a problem with discussing it. I just honestly haven't bothered considering it. It's a pretty unlikely option, certainly not by natural means. Like what humans would call natural means. Because to say the least, I'm a little picky where it comes to connecting with people. Them included. Now, is it technically possible that somebody has taken DNA from me? Certainly. I know for an absolute, I can't prove it, but I know the Canadian military did. To what end, I still don't know. And let's face it, they're not going to tell me. But do I know of any definitively that are my kids? No, but I've got a lot of them that I get along with really well, and that do look to me when I do get up there.
How about you, Nicole? Any hybrids?
I want to say no, but I get told that I might want to not say no and dig into that, which I kind of refuse to jump down that rabbit hole right now. So I'll say my one son that's a hybrid of me, and his human father is my only known human hybrid.
Well, here we go. Another question.
Hybridization.
This one comes from Kira, as we got about 5.5 minutes to go before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour on our Keith Andrews ET Connection. Kira is asking, Keith, what races are using the sun flare energy and assisting in protecting Earth from harmful CMEs?
I'm going to have to get one thing clarified first.
What's a CME?
Yeah, that'd be the one. So you can clarify that, I might be able to answer the question. I can tell you who's using sun
coronal mass ejections, large expulsions of plasma and magnetic field from the sun's corona. They can eject billions upon billions of tons of coronal material.
That would be, now that I know what the CME is, that would be the consortium itself. And frankly, technically they're doing it to protect Earth, but what they're really doing is they're taking the energy and refueling. Instead of going there, they're waiting for it to come to them. They just intercept it. Net result, Earth doesn't get it. It's quite a standard refueling technique. The Moldocks use it all the time. But the consortium is the governing body that handles roughly, last count I heard, was roughly 2,500 member races. And not all of them are human looking.
because we have seen giant ships, or what looks to be videos of giant ships parked near the sun, or some sort of anomalies that look like ships parked near the sun, waiting for the flares to come up. And it's almost like they're grabbing that energy. I mean, I don't know if those are CGI'd or not. I mean, there's a good possibility that they are, but I'm just very curious, Keith. Do they do that all over the universe? I mean, it's like stopping
They
at your
do that.
local Exxon or something.
Basically, that's what it boils down to. And they do that at every star that they come to. Right. Basically, they sit there waiting their turn, but their turn is not waiting for a hose, it's waiting for the eruption. But they get really edgy. You'll notice that the ships that are around those they tend to gather around those, but they're always the bigger ships. You never try and refuel a small ship around a sunflower. Primarily because it'll blow up. Kind of ruins the idea of docking.
Do all of them use the sun as a fuel source? Or
Absolutely not. The best drive they've got is something called the OTE drive. Okay. Which literally uses the transiting energy caused by shifting electrons. And I'm going to have to pull on.
Keith, you go take that. All right. Keith is still on duty for his nighttime job. So you got me, you got Nicole Sakach hanging on out here on R Keith Andrews ET Connection. And, that's always something interesting to me, Nicole, is these videos that we get from space, whether it looks like these giant anomalies that are taking energy from the sun, or even something from the International Space Station. It always makes me wonder if it's actual craft we're filming, or if it's some sort of CGI art, because we want those videos from space saying, look, there's aliens up in space.
Well, I go with, seeing something for real that we can't explain, whether it's something natural or from beyond, or the CGI. But beyond that, I think what it makes me think of most is when we talk about our own evolution as a species or a planet, and how we can harness our own energy. And, there's all this talk of whether or not we can make that next leap to, getting off fossil fuels and truly harnessing like solar energy without blowing ourselves up or killing ourselves first. They say that there's like the probability of getting to that point without destroying yourself is very high. So when you're talking about ships that come in and can siphon sun directly from a star, it's fascinating to me. Are they a civilization? Should I say if before that, if they can do that, are they a civilization that has mastered this? So.
See, I don't know. I mean, for me, I just don't trust the whole CGI movement. It is becoming so good and so dangerous for what is real and what is not real, that I think that it's very tough to tell. And can we trust anything or any video that's out there right now? Hey, we're going to have more talk on ETs, alien abductions, UFOs with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. We have special guest tonight, Nicole Sakach, who is growing out her hair for the trip to Las Vegas, April 22nd to 24th, for the SOR fan party. She will be there along with numerous other guests who will be joining us. The ET Connection with R Keith Andrews and special guest Nicole Sakach continues on Spaced Out Radio for the second half hour. Coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
You're so bad.
Yeah.
Donnie, I will get to your question when we come back from the break. Thank you for that awesome super chat, man. I really do appreciate that. Along with Terry, Flash Forward ×2, Flock ×2, and the Doug Shelby. The Doug Shelby. Yeah. Who else is here? Asteroid, good to see you. And who else is coming in here? Digger Dog, thanks for joining us. Awesome Man Palmer. You didn't piss anybody off, Ann Palmer. At least not me, and I'm the important one around here. Oh, hey, Clam. Mennonite Abe. Let's see here. That's it. Where is Ann L. Probe? Everybody give Ann L. Probe a little bit of a shout out. She's new to our channel. I believe this is the first time she's in our chat room. So everybody say hello to her. We deserve to say hello. I'm missing questions here. Do me a favor, because this show does fly on by, post your question in capital letters. It will be very much more easy for me to see the questions. And we go from there. And if I accidentally miss your question, just retype it and I will get to it. Stunning Shelley Montgomery, welcome back. Aiden, nice to have you here. Yeah, Ann L. Probe. That is a brilliant name. The gorgeous Carla. I am almost caught up on my sleep. Almost caught up. By the time I'm fully caught up, Vegas will be here. Props. This is our first meetup that we are doing in Vegas. First meetup that we are doing. And by the success of this one so far, we're definitely doing another one next year, but we're probably going to hold it off until May. That way we can celebrate it around Dave's birthday. I'm selfish like that. Selfish. Enzo's not sleeping in Vegas. He's made the call. Donnie Cho, are you going to meet us in Vegas? Oh, props. So you got a year to plan. How about that? You got 13 months. Same as the gorgeous Pinzer Flactum. You got 13 months. We'll do it in May next year. Jeremy Jones going to the Bunny Ranch instead of coming to visit us. All right. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, doot. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, 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 doot.
Do 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 do.
Charge! Gonna do it again. Do 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 do. Charge! Do 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 do. Charge! Chris Mo, how you doing, buddy? 13 months. We're gonna do it again. Hey, the unknown, could you do me a favor? Could you email me again and give me your phone number? I want to give you a call tomorrow or Sunday, if you don't mind. My favorite video game ever, Donnie Cho? Good question. Donkey Kong Jr. Love Donkey Kong Jr. Latro, how you doing? Look at Keith working away there. One sexy son of a bitch right there. All right. Mr. Crowley, thank you for adding to the super chat. Very much appreciate it. Coyote, how you doing, man? Okay, we got 10 seconds. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you taking the time to tune us in. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It's the R Keith Andrews ET Connection. We are all aboard the Woo train right now, taking your questions from the audience. Keith has just stepped away for a couple of seconds because literally he is on duty while at work in the evening. So that's what he's doing. Well, good news is we got Nicole Sakach here, researcher and author, and she's hanging on out. Nicole, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. Happy to be here tonight.
I know. We're happy to have you. Donnie is asking, I can't help but wonder sometimes if there are some aliens out there who are having a laugh at our expense. Oh, yeah, Donnie. We are the greatest reality TV show ever. We have violence, we have sex, we have drugs, we have rock and roll, we have sports, we have drama, we have politics, we have everything going on that would make any alien species cringe at what we do here on Earth. We're filthy, filthy, filthy people. Nicole, your thoughts?
Well, I have heard plenty of testimony in I was going to say a few different ways, but it's honestly endless to where should I start? The whole download conversations, that people can have with their phenomenon. A lot of times they'll say their phenomenon has their own sense of humor. So if they're like a smart alecky person, then their phenomenon's going to talk back to them in that smart alecky way. And then, of course, there's the trickster element of the phenomenon where it's like they'll take your toothpaste or your keys or, you'll lose something for a little while and then they give it back. And it's in the most obvious place that you would not have missed. And it's almost like, ha, 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 just messing with you. So, I mean, yeah, I do think there's humor on the phenomenon's part.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The phenomena plays tricks that we would maybe consider evil, because they hurt our egos, right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's, for the most part, it's not very evil. I think it's their own sense of humor. Like, hey, let's screw this human mind up. Let's put them in their safe spot, so that way they can cry.
Or I think one way to look at it is, there's that element of humor. And it's almost like the old genie fairy tales you hear, where it's like you have to be extremely careful about what you ask for because it's going to give you exactly what you ask for in the way you need it. So that can be leery. You know what I mean? Like, or if you laugh at the phenomenon or almost like give it the middle finger, it might even be like, whoa, here's a taste of that back too. So, and I experienced that for myself.
It is almost like there is karma tied to it.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Marty wants to know, Nicole, have you ever flown a ship?
I think so. Yeah.
I gotta hear that.
Well, I have, My whole life, I have that reoccurring building dream where you're being taught lessons. And part of that is like a build up to sinking with the craft. And I kind of, it's hard for me to describe it. I know the interior of it, but I've never seen my craft from the outside. So I can't tell you what it looks like. But yeah, once you're connected to it and flying it, my craft also disappears. So there's nothingness around me. So
I have not. I want to have that experience where, like, after the show one night, I want to go outside, just have that need, that feeling that you need to go outside. And I want to go and look in my backyard, and there's a ship parked right in my backyard, because my backyard is big enough. It really is, to land a good sized ship. And I want to walk up to that thing, and I want my chauffeur to say to me, "Sir, it's time for you to board." Like, I want to do this consciously. I don't want none of this dream stuff where
yeah.
it's like you don't know whether it's a dream or something real. I want to know what it's like to walk onto that ship. I want to be like my favorite actor, James Earl Jones, in Field of Dreams, where he's checking out the corn just to make sure it's safe. I want that.
I actually run and leap into mine. And when I hit the spot, I feel myself lock into a place, and then it's like game on. But when I was going through the steps and learning, I used to fall straight through it. Or I would lock in for a moment and go, I did it. And then poof, wake up, or I would fall. And yeah, it's very strange.
All right. Nikki wants to know, Nicole, what's your biggest woo or scariest story?
There's a lot of woo. It's hard for me to define what the biggest would be. And I would say scariest at the moment was that Ouija board encounter that I had with an old roommate and our neighbor, where we talked to some entities in our apartment complex. It was pretty much for like 2 or 3 hours. And I still have the notebook where we like documented who and what we were talking to and what was said. And it didn't freak me out until one of the spirits had a problem with my guy roommate, thought he was a jerk. And at one point in the night, my roommate's drum set got played all on its own. And it was in a separate room from us. Nobody else was in there, that sort of thing. And just like in that moment, that's when I ended everything. I was like, okay, it's time to stop. You guys need to move on. Leave us alone. Thanks for hanging out. And it just clicked with me that if it could manipulate the drum set, it could like throw something across the room and hit you, or you know what I mean? Like that just kind of crossed the line for me. And yeah, I moved out of St. Louis within like the next 2 months. I was just like, that city's got something about it, the entire city. It wasn't just my apartment at that point. Because, once you ask about these things, it's like, oh, yeah, it's your building, it's your neighborhood, it's that area of the city. And you start hearing all like the just outpour of everything. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't. If I were to look at my scariest story, I mean, I've had scary encounters, like seeing the alien in the forest with Samantha Mowat was scary. Seeing the landing was scary. Being chased and attacked by the ghost of the barn upstairs was scary. I haven't had that real frightful fear for my safety type of scary yet. I hope I never do.
Hmm.
I mean, that would seriously suck, you know?
My scariness with that, I mean, like I said, it was that it could manipulate something, but it was more of like that scared of what am I truly dealing with here? You know, like what is this? Like that fear of the unknown type of thing. But I've used it as a motivating thing since. It's like, I don't know. I tend to stand up to the phenomenon these days, which I sort of did in that situation. After that night, we never had the creepy stuff going on in our apartment that was going on. So when I banished them, they at least left or at least stopped doing their stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that would be like. I mean, it makes me feel gracious that I'm not one of these people, Nicole, who is an experiencer to the point where they can't work,
Right.
and you can't claim employment insurance or unemployment insurance because who's going to believe you? Aliens are forcing me not to work. I couldn't be one of these people who literally hides in their closet each and every night just because they are afraid of the Greys coming back or the reptilians or whomever. Or, when you see things passed down, I think of Corina Sables in this case. This is who I'm kind of getting my examples from, where this poor lady, had an encounter of seeing a black triangle in the early 90s outside of Aldergrove, British Columbia, which is like 10 miles from where I grew up. And from there, the aliens started coming. And then over time, the ETs started taking her daughters. And then when her daughters grew up, they started taking the grandchildren. I mean, this is just a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying? And this has affected that family so much. They don't sleep at night. They sleep during the day. They are petrified on a daily basis because they don't know what's happening to them. Like I don't know if I could live like that. Like that is hard living.
On very few occasions, I have some fellow field investigators around here, and they're more on the paranormal side. And obviously I'm more on the ufology side of things, but every once in a while they'll haul me in for like my expertise, if you can call it that. And honestly, I've never encountered the being brought into that sort of the abduction scenario, but I have been brought in on like the poltergeist and the constant haunting in houses. And when you look at maybe individual scenarios of what's going on in an individual's home, then things don't seem, too crazy or too bad, from the outside. But some of these cases, these people have been dealing with this phenomenon in their home on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. And it does consume them. And when you look at every incident stacked together in notebooks and logs and journals that families keep, that's when you realize it's like part post-traumatic stress and part ongoing, like it's almost like some sort of like psychological warfare, scenario. And you can understand why it's maddening for some people, and they do everything they can possibly think of to make it stop. And I know plenty of people that have never been able to make it stop, and they move. And the lucky ones get to move away. The unlucky ones, it follows them. And this sounds like this scenario happens often. I've maybe encountered this type of bad scenario twice in 25 years with a family, with two different families. So
I wish Alice in Yellowknee was free because I would love to bring her on. I'm going to get her and her family on this show soon. And Nicole, you're going to host that one with me,
I'll
because
help.
when you hear Allison and her family's story from northern Alberta, where they have had their First Nations and where their entire Indigenous reserve has had ET interaction and all sorts of cryptid interaction. I mean, her story, she doesn't talk about it a lot. I mean, to this day, we might be one of her only interview, or one of her only interviews that she has done on this. And it would blow you away what her and her family have gone through over the years with this ET interaction. And it just blows my mind. And like she says in the chat room here, it was difficult living like I had no control over my life. And I couldn't imagine. The interesting part about it is this happens a lot with First Nations people. It does. I was talking to one of the elders here, the former chief of the local band here where I live a few years ago. And I was saying, hey, do you have Sasquatch up in the forest there? He goes, no, we have the little people, but we don't have Sasquatch. He goes, I just wish those damn star people would leave our people alone for once. You know?
And see, how you hear different scenarios with that concerning First Nations and tribal people across the globe, honestly. And I think, you know, a lot of researchers, and, you know, Mr. Valet comes to mind, and even Grant, and I can name some local ones around Illinois and Missouri, just to bring it down to from like not famous people. But I think all researchers that do their diligence, even when it comes to just the blinky lights in the sky, you know, and where that sighting is located, you know, once you start mapping your collection that you know, do for an area, you know, it's only natural to go back how far and explore what's special and historic about that reason. And, you know, they say all roads lead to Rome. I like to say in ufology, all roads lead to Egypt. But I think it depends really on your region, because, you know, a lot of the times the road leads to whatever is culturally specific to that area, what's indigenous culturally to that area. And it's just fascinating, those avenues that can be taken, because yes, and that, like, every First Nations tribe is different. You know, this relationship with the star people is different, but they all have a star people story of some form, shape, fashion. So that's fascinating to me. And yeah, I'd join you on any interview. You know that.
Oh, yeah. You would love that. Allison says in the chat room that she would love to bring her family on to discuss this. And I think it would be one of our most powerful shows with an experiencer ever.
Great. Yep. Epic.
Nicole, the unknown wants to know, is there anywhere I could go to listen to your story?
You know, a lot of it is in pieces right here on Spaced Out Radio, or naturally with the stuff that I do with Grant or on my own YouTube. I'm more of a sharer as it comes up as I interview, you know, or as you get to know people in this field, you know, you swap your stories with them. And there's one interview lingering out there. I can't call it an interview. My first ever phone conversation with Grant Cameron, he very sneakily recorded. So there's probably, I think, 2 hours of me and Grant getting to know each other and rambling that he's been pressuring me to release for, I don't know, over 2 years now. And I think on my YouTube channel, the first interviews that I did do kind of when I became public in the field. One was with Cameron Logan on his podcast, My Alien Life. I know I talk about my sightings there. And then if you can track down my Laughlin UFO mega conference lecture from last year, that was all about my experiences instead of my research. So
Yes. We've got about 3.5 minutes on ET Contact and the ET Connection with R Keith Andrews. He's just had to step away for a moment due to business, but Nicole Sakach, our researcher extraordinaire, is here. Pam is asking you, Nicole, is it true spirits can't cross water? And if so, what if they died in the water or did?
I have to say a big I don't know to this one because I've never come across anything like that in my research. I mean, I know there's stuff linked with like holy water and spirits and blessed water and sacred water and things like that. And the fact that, you know, whatever percentage of the human body is water, and that, you know, thought experiments can manipulate water. Who am I thinking of? Dr. Emoto, where it's like send happy thoughts and water will react a certain way or freeze in a certain pattern, or you think angry thoughts and it looks all like chaotic and distorted instead of crystalline and beautiful. So if you think about how that affects your body, and I don't know, then water can be affected like that. And there's experiments where they can levitate like droplets of water using like sound and harmonics, which that's kind of cool. There, that was a long answer to sort of that question, I think.
Kind of.
I think I channeled Grant Cameron right there. Did I pull a Grant? That felt very Grant of me.
Well, you know what? That would be something Grant Cameron would say and would do. Well, you know what? We've got about 90 seconds to go here. And for you, you know, I'm going to make a comment here from our good friend Swamp Dweller. Says, I'm here for Nicole. Sorry, Dave.
Hi, Swamp.
Swamp Dweller. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, there might be some boo-boos inside his storytelling later on tonight in hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio. I may have to make some edit cuts to that story. I'm just saying. Yeah, that one hurt. That one hurt. We will get to more ET talk and, you know, with R Keith Andrews and Nicole Sakach when we return, and we'll take more of your questions as we get going. I mean, just imagine being taken. If you've never been taken before, what it feels like, what you're up to, where you're going, and why can you not damn well remember? Why are they blank in our memories? So many questions go into the ET theory as to what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, where they're coming from. I don't know. Makes my mind just explode. Just explode sometimes. R. Keith Andrews and the ET Connection will continue on Spaced Out Radio right after the break. And of course, author, researcher, research assistant to Grant Cameron, Nicole Sakach, who is growing her hair out for Las Vegas and the Spaced Out Radio SOR fan party, April 22nd to 24th. Everyone's invited. Just got to show up. It's that simple. Hey, Nicole's going to be there, so you know anybody can be there. Spaced Out Radio with R. Keith Andrews and Nicole Sakach continues right after this. We're clear.
You know, I do want to say, with all the paranormal investigations that people have taken me on, I think honestly they love hearing about the ufology tie-ins because it takes them away from what they're dealing with and gives them some ideas on stuff to try. You know.
Keith, are you off shift now?
This will be numbers. I'll be right back.
All right. Boy,
Bye. He's so popular, Keith. Our Keith in the world.
Hello, Thurston Howell III. Davey Crotchkick, how are you? Pingo Pongo, we don't take call-ins. And just so you know, Pingo Pongo, the easiest way for us in this field to tell whether or not somebody could possibly be trolling is when they've never been in your room before, and the first thing they say, how to call in. Is there a call-in number? Sweet Polly T. Nicole, you do your thing. I'll be right back. Keith, are you back?
I'm back.
All right, you Nicole. Oh, he's
all right.
France.
Me and Keith are going to hold it down.
I tell you that.
Busy.
Yeah. Well, I could go into that, and I don't think I'm going to. But there are times that I am a little less than impressed with the people that I end up talking to.
That's part of the job.
That doesn't make it better.
True.
It's kind of like I asked somebody. I didn't ask somebody. Somebody asked me on air one day, and Dave caught it really quick. Right. Somebody asked me why they should believe what I was telling them. My response was a little less than, shall we say, socially acceptable.
Well, you know, I'm a chef by day, and I don't like everybody that I cook steaks for, but I still cook them steaks.
Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons why the one thing about this job is I am very reclusive for a reason. You know, I get along better with the animals and plants and with the animals, plants, and off-worlders than I do with most people. Which sounds really bad, but he's quite honest.
It doesn't sound bad.
I actually used to have a bumper sticker that said, the more people I meet, the more I like my cats. But no, it was dead all night. I literally had a call at, what was it now? Had a call at 3 o'clock when I first got on shift. One at 5 and then nothing until now.
That's how it goes. It's like I'll be slow all day, and then 20 minutes before I want to leave, my restaurant will get full. So that's okay. And Enzo, no. I'm a master chef. You never mess with the product. That's your money.
Yeah, no. No, I'll walk into a restaurant, and if it's late, like if I don't realize it's coming on closing, I'll walk in. It's like, when do you close? And I'll go, well, we're closing in half an hour. I'm going like, I'll come back. Because I won't come into a restaurant to order anything, that close to the evening. Right? Because I don't know about you, but I think as a professional chef, my son is a cook. Right? He never did get all his paperwork, but you never walk into a restaurant at the last minute when you've had all night to get there.
Socially that might be looked down on. And yeah, of course, it's always the end of the night kind of thing. But honestly, from a making money perspective, my favorite thing in the world was when I lived in Chicago and running restaurants up in that city, 10 minutes to close and some sort of tour bus pulls up in your parking lot and your whole staff's like, oh, and I'm like, that's $700 more. Woohoo!
Oh yeah. No, I can certainly understand that aspect of it.
Yeah,
funny
so
part for
I
me
don't
is money
know.
was
Work
never a
is work.
motivator.
People don't like to work, so pull up your pants, make a few more bucks. Sorry you had to work 6 hours instead of 5.
Yeah, no, money was never a good motivator for me, which unfortunately has translated into complications.
Well, money for myself, no. Money for the people I work for, yes. Like,
See,
that
don't get
sort
me
of
wrong.
thing.
If I'm working, I work. But Dave, you're back.
I am. We have about just under a minute here to go, guys. All
My
right.
my fellow cooks hate when I say stuff like that, but I don't know. Food is designed the restaurants I work in now, food's designed to come out in like 15 or 20 minutes. So, somebody comes
Yeah.
in 10 minutes before you close, then they're going to be gone 20 minutes after they eat. So that's okay.
Yeah. No, I spent 24 years in hospitality.
I do have some horror stories of what I've caught people doing. That's for
Hold
another
on.
night.
Hold on,
Yeah.
guys. A big
Okay.
thank you to Flock ×2, Flash Forward ×2, Doug, Terry, Don, Mr. Crowley ×2, Rex, and Cliff for the super chats. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us on in as we continue on with the ET connection. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Yonderly. Yonderly is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. The ET connection with R Keith Andrews continues right now. Keith is a lifelong experiencer who now helps counsel those who are going through the same type of experiences. We are also joined by author and researcher Nicole Sakach. Keith, Nicole, welcome back.
Well, thanks very much for having me. And welcome back to everybody else.
For
Happy
sure.
to be here.
All right, we're going to start off with a question from Cliff here. Cliff says, I got scratched by a cat and turned to the other person there, but saw a cat shadow morph into that other person in a second to steal or run out the injury. Was that other person an alien? If so, what kind?
Likely a Terrianthrope off of Lyra, but it wasn't a person to start with. The feline was the real person. The
I'm
cat that
confused.
scratched him was. Try that again.
I'm confused here.
Okay, a Terrianthrope is somebody that takes on the form of either of an animal and a human. Okay, most of them start off as humanoid, but some are actually starting off as the cat and then learn to form into a human to hide.
Okay.
The Terrianthropes on the whole come from Lyra.
Like the bear.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Everything comes from Lyra. When you
No.
hate something, it comes from Lyra.
No, the Zeta Reticulans don't. The Nordics don't. I mean, we could go on, but I get the idea.
I will say with all the shadow people, that come up in the phenomenon and the cats that can open portals, that to me, maybe these shadow beings come in all sorts of beings. It could have been a person and its pet, but
Oh,
I
they
like
do.
Keith's answer too.
The shadow realm is another realm.
I, of course, have questions like what were Grant and I digging into with shadow people? Was it the shadow man that was wearing like the fedora hat or the hooded cloak? Or did it just look like the perfect silhouette of, a bipedal or
I presume
three-footed
you're referring to Grant Cameron.
ET? Like,
You're referring to Grant Cameron?
yeah.
Yeah, those shadow people, they're watchers.
And then who's the Mike Rickseckler just put a big book out on shadow people. He's really taken a deep dive into them. So, that's some good research to do. Let's read his book.
Keith, I want to ask you for a quick second here regarding shadow people. I was talking to someone in the know of the U.S. government about the whole UFO extraterrestrial realm. Works very closely with Lou Elizondo. And this person told me that a lot of these shadow people that people are encountering could actually be remote viewers.
And that is absolutely correct.
How do we tell the difference?
Well, let's see. That's a good question. I like it.
I could feel that because that's what I was like, ooh, I forgot.
Just give me 1 second here. Keith, I'm going to get you to move closer to your microphone a little bit because you've really quieted down here.
Well, it was I there. Slap the computer. Sorry. No, the reality is remote viewers, there is a haze around them. Okay, there is almost a secondary skin around them that you can see. With true shadow folk, there's no fluctuation in the outline.
I have heard from one person who's retired from the government. I won't say what 3-letter acronym or 3-letter abbreviation, but I was told that concerning remote viewing shadows, that they won't necessarily move. If they're remote viewing in on you and you happen to see or can pick up that presence, that they might be like standing somewhere in a corner or out of the way because they are truly just watching, where like the shadow beings that you encounter, they move. You see them flitting or coming in and out from somewhere. So
the other thing there, Nick, is if remote viewers are moving, the whole form, it's kind of like taking a still shot and sliding it across the room.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas true shadow folk, you'll watch the limbs move. I'd love to say you'll see the facial changes, but you can't see the face to start with.
Right. I guess I have a question is, how does that remote viewer project themselves? Can they project themselves as themselves, or can they project themselves into somewhere as a different shape or form?
That depends on the talent of the remote viewer.
Right. So, if you see your shadow cat, is it really a shadow cat?
Yeah, that's why I was getting at it. Most remote viewers will, because it takes a lot of focus to get across, to get that projection. And it's easier to project something that you're absolutely familiar with.
Right. And I know we're saying remote viewing, but we are talking astral projection, not just remote viewing.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Mystics Walk is asking in the chat room, if they say, don't be afraid, I won't hurt you, would that be an indicator that it's a shadow person and not a remote viewer?
Yeah, quite frankly, because a remote viewer won't say a word.
Right.
Most of the time, the remote viewer can't say a word.
I guess there's a scenario like my mind goes to government remote viewing, and that's like very task orientated. Like they're there to view something and gather intelligence of some way, shape, or form. Now, if you've got like a group of remote viewer buddies that are just trying to like pull a prank on one of their friends, then I mean, who knows what they can like put their will to do. But in that classic scenario of intelligence gathering, like I don't really foresee them trying to like out themselves that they're even trying to do that. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing is supposed to be secretive.
Yeah, they don't go out of their way to talk to people.
Yeah.
I remember one day we ran into a problem, me and a group of other really uncontrolled telepaths. It was a bizarre setup because we went to a restaurant and started ordering, but it was really confusing for the poor waitress. And I finally stopped and looked at her and went, wait a minute, you're not a telepath, are you? And she goes, no. So all of us, of course, bust out laughing, and then we started giving the order, instead of, I'll take one, can I get one of those too? Instead of this kind of an order, and you working in the field, the waitresses go through that. In our case, it was quite accidental.
Well, the other thing too is if I'm understanding correctly, remote viewers rarely work alone. They're part of a team or at least a coupling of people.
Most of the time,
one is good. One is good, but you need another or more to verify and
ultimately that's if you're still learning, that's what it is. But when you get 2 or 3 remote viewers working together, you generate a much higher energy flow, making it easier to deal with them.
Love it.
That's how that usually translates.
Well, and that kind of is a thread through all of phenomenology. I mean, one person doing heists can get results, yes, but if they join a group, and set their intentions, groups often get bigger, better results. So the same thing with the Ouija board or a seance circle or sitting circle or remote viewing. So
yeah, and it boils down to the same thing. A lot of the reason for that is, as you surmised,
which coven?
Forgot
to throw that one in.
Yeah.
I want to get into abductions here because for a lot of
it's illegal.
Well, I know that, but I mean, I'm very curious, with abductions, why, Keith, they choose whom they choose. I mean, it could be start off as a 3-year-old child. It could be a 60-year-old man. It could be, a 38-year-old divorcee. It could be a 25-year-old graduate from college. How do they choose who to take?
Well, technically, the actual term is they look at the subquantum quantum magnetic flux around the individual. It's the subcellular markers that they're looking for that indicate the likely outcome of their future. Okay. Unlike humans who go, oh, there's a fish, let's tag it and let it go. These guys go, oh, there's a human that looks like they're going to be and they're going to have an impact on industry. Let's see how they handle it. They're looking for markers of an evolutionary nature that they've got the technology to track. Humans look at genetic markers on a very basic level. The off-worlders don't. But that's how they go about choosing it. They just look at what the outcome is likely to be based on the current path. All
right, we'll continue with that in a moment. Question from Shelley for you, Nicole. I was watching someone do something, and it was the first time ever this person looked straight at me. He saw me. It freaked me out of the fact that this person saw me. Any thoughts? I'm going to assume they were remote viewing or something like that.
I've heard scenarios where people have been astral projecting, and once they realize that they're astral projecting instead of dreaming, they get sucked out of it. I've also heard scenarios when people are astral projecting that they go to loved ones and they try to get their attention and they can't. And they'll ask them at later times, like, you were sitting here and I was right in front of you and I was snapping my fingers, all this stuff, could you sense anything? And, I think 9 out of 10 times I've heard the scenario where it's no, the person has not been able to identify anything there. There is that rare one where people have seen their projected loved ones. And it's almost, I think if I'm following the question correctly, yes, it's like that moment of recognition, but it can also like suck the person out of that astral plane as well. So I know there's people that are out there that are more sensitive to these things. So maybe if they pay attention, they could probably tell. Like, I've always wondered, like, this scenario with remote viewers, if the US had their team and our, enemy had their team of remote viewers, like, are they in this like remote viewing intelligence gathering battle with each other? And if they ever find out who each other are, it's like, hey, Bob's spying on me again, or John's at it, like, or
the scary part
set
there?
up your barrier, like how you can do protections. You're like, well, I'm protecting myself against Pat Price and Ingo Swan. Like, they're never getting in this dome or my house or whatever it is.
That goes on. The other countries and multiple countries have remote viewers,
right?
And there is such a thing as what you would call an astral battle or a psychic battle, in order to gain dominance of the information you're looking for, in order to block other viewers.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. It's one of the. It's what they train. It's part of the training of psychic combat.
Well, and I was going to say, part of training and the other mental mind meditation training, you come across these scenarios where you're in like deep meditation and you're going through those lessons. And yeah, it's almost like in Star Wars when Yoda is learning about his own dark side and he's battling himself. It's like you battle yourself in the astral plane or that meditative state. And yeah, like, I mean, it's not necessarily in westernized culture, but easternized culture, yes.
All right, we got a bunch of questions from our audience coming up. We got 5 minutes left in this segment. Let's go right to Davy Jones here, Keith. How can you stop abductions?
And the moment you figure that one out, let me know. I mean, you can certainly modify the abduction by actually talking with the people instead of screaming at them. But abductions themselves, quite frankly, I don't see them stopping it. It can be done, but you have to you literally have to modify the biomagnetic flux around them so they can't get you. And that's a tricky stunt. I've done it before. We actually stopped a physical abduction one day in that fashion.
Bad Comic Reviews is asking, do different alien species have a unique scent?
Absolutely. Some of them you really don't want to smell. But individuals have a unique scent.
Nikki would like to know what ETs love eating and chewing on other ETs.
Well, just about any one of the carnivorous, but one of the most prolific with it on anybody would be the Kinlar. They'll even chew on each other to get the glory of the kill. They are a nasty little group, but they are in the Teklik are quite fond of eating their opponents while they're fighting.
All right, let's move on here. Mystic's Walk is asking, where are shadow people from? What do they want from us?
Well, literally, shadow people are from the shadow realm. They literally come out of the shadows. And what they're looking for is they're just trying to understand these solid corporeals. You know, there's certainly not any danger, as it were.
Kronos wants to know, how about some type of technology that could detect the astral projection? Do you think there is some type of particle or signature at the location the remote viewer visits? It's energy and consciousness, is it not?
Yes, it is. And you can actually, there is a signature that you can look for if you fine-tune the tech properly.
I know that I have had a few times where I picked up on remote viewers checking in on our conversations. Most recently, it was with Bob McGuire, and there was one outside his place and one outside mine. And when you pick up on the energy, it's amazing if you start translating that energy, what you can see. You can actually detect what the person looks like.
Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing. All right, we've got 2.5 minutes. Mennonite Abe wants to know, I've had the same dream for over 30 years of being able to fly or float over my neighborhood. Could this be astral traveling?
Absolutely. If you're flying around without any form of aerial conveyance, you're astral traveling.
Nicole?
It's you know.
I agree. I say yes. It could be astral travel. It could be flying a craft. You know, there's a bunch of questions that could go along with that. Is there other paranormal activity? Can you control elements of this dream? You know, are there other dreams that you remember throughout your entire life? Like what makes this dream special as compared to your other dreams? Like, you know, there's lots of avenues with that.
All right, let's continue on here as we got about 90 seconds. War Eagle wants to know, are we aliens to planet Earth?
No. Mankind was built here. They were put together on Earth. The Mobians are aliens. They originated on Earth and about 40,000 years ago ended up going to Mobius. But no, mankind was originally built here.
All right, let's sneak one more in. Mystic's Walk wants to know, where can we learn psychic combat?
Well, you can always go to the military labs. That's always fun. That's where I learned. Mind you, I don't recommend that method. It's much easier. It's more difficult, but much more beneficial to learn how to do psychic healing than it is to do psychic conflict. There's enough conflict in the world already.
True. Nicole, 30 seconds for your thoughts.
The combat side of it, no, I haven't encountered. Maybe like defense, like psychic defense, or even just how to like astral project or remote view. There's plenty of researchers that have awesome books out there. I keep thinking of Preston Dennett's, one of his latest books on how to astral project. So, I mean, Preston can really break it down. So.
And on that note, we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We have R Keith Andrews and Nicole Sakach for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. The ET Connection happens at the beginning of each month, where Keith comes in and talks all things extraterrestrial. We will continue with audience questions when we return on the mighty SOR. My name is Dave Scott, host of this Woo Train that is rolling all night long. Big thank you to Smithy for that awesome super chat. Very much appreciated, along with Allison, Cliff, Rex, Mr. Crowley ×2, Donnie, and Terry, Flash Forward ×2, Flock ×2, and the Doug Shelby as well. Very much appreciate the love and support tonight, guys. Hi, see how we are living. Good to have you back. Hi, gorgeous Lori Rosenfield, my fellow Canadian. Let's see. I'm just scrolling down the chat room here. Ryan, welcome to SOR chat. Thank you so much. And National Memorial, much appreciated. And River Dogma, who's going to Vegas? Show of hands. Nicole can't show her hands right now because she's out of the picture.
Vegas.
Penman, what's happening? Three weeks. 3 weeks today.
Mr. Crowley, welcome back to the show.
Holy cow, are you off tune?
I don't know. It's late. You usually sing it. Every time you've said his name tonight, I've been like, why isn't he singing it? So you sing it.
Because that's for Mr. Cowley. This is Mr. Crowley. So then we got to go, Mr. Crowley. Dun, dun, dun. Welcome back to the show. Dun-dun. Oh, Mr. Crowley. Loves to super chat. Spaced Out Radio. There you go.
Love it. What else is going on in the community?
I don't know. I'll leave that to Uncle Keith and you.
I've been tuned out the last couple of days, but you know,
I honestly try not to pay attention.
I succeed at it. Every once in a while, I get a call from somebody to bring me up to speed on something, but on the whole, for me, what's going on in the community is a degradation and collapse of society, and it's getting worse. Stupid part is they've all gone down this road more times than I care to count.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's a bit cynical, but it is reality nonetheless.
Hi, Ollie. How you doing?
You know, the stinky alien question came up earlier, and it made me think about my sneak peek that I got about James Fox's latest film coming up. I got to see a rough cut version of it with no narration, but you guys, you know, he really is one of our community's like golden children. Like, we're just not gonna see anything subpar out of the Fox ever. So I'm excited for us. I'm excited because, you know, this is the first like looking at a contact case, and it's going to be huge. A first for James Fox. So
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
I'll tell you more when I can tell you more. How about that?
Well, okay. That works for me. We've got about 1 minute here, guys.
Yeah. I like your coffee cup there, Nicole. It's a decent size.
Oh, hey. Speaking of coffee cups, I got a gift for Grant. I'll show you guys.
What did you do?
He loves coffee, but one side says UFO boss, and then the other side has like his favorite Canadian hockey team with some like UFOs superimposed on it. But it's color changing. I gotta mail it to him so he can like sit there and drink it, and it says UFO boss on it.
All right, guys, we're about to come back in 20 seconds. Want to say that if you were looking for some nice swag, we got some. I just put up a couple new t-shirt logos up there. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com. And don't forget, this weekend we have after hours going on as well, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you at SOR headquarters. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Final segment for R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. As we are kicking it off, Nicole Sakach is our special guest tonight. And of course, we are taking questions from our audience members on our YouTube channel. And we are talking alien abductions here right now. Keith, I want to ask you in regards to alien abductions, if they're not very picky and choosy with whom they are taking, and obviously some are there for experimentation, others are there, to maybe inform us, give us some sort of grounds of knowledge. How do we know what we're getting?
That's easy. Number one, if you come back feeling like you've been violated, terrorized, whatever, this is not a good experience. If you come back with a sense of here's a message that I feel has to be put forth, right? And I forget the name of the case. There was a real prominent one in New York decades back that Bud Hopkins dealt with, right? That she came back and she had very direct. Economic, or not economic, but what was it? A natural, it had to do with the balance of nature that was absolutely imperative at the time. These are the ones that are bringing people up to educate them and hope that the message gets out, because they tried talking to the government botched it, so they tried talking to the big power corporations. And they went after greed. They went after monetization of the information. So they turned to the unknowns and go, maybe these guys will get the message out.
Does it ever work out?
Well, the world hasn't been burnt to a crisp, so it's working. Honestly, not as effectively as it could. But that's because they've had to go to the tertiary methods where you're dealing with unknown people to pass on the message instead of the big corporations and the government that could make it happen overnight. But mankind, as the off-worlders have found, sharing is not one of their redeeming qualities. Or defining qualities, I think, is a polite way of putting it.
Nicole, what's your thoughts?
Well, there's always like Keith brought up, the Bud Hopkins versus Jacobs versus Mac, like the types of experiencers that they talk to. And I think people that deal in hypnosis and regression and QHHT come across that plethora of experiencers as well. And then I think, like, when you're talking about experiencers that have tried to take control of their own experiences, whether it's with HICE or CE5, And then you're talking that consciousness aspect of left brain versus right brain. And when you're talking abductees, you know, there's lots of research on this left versus right. Your left brain being inhibiting because it's that give you an answer, give you that societal acceptable plug-in answer, where your right brain is more creative and might allow you to question more. And with implants, you know, it was found that they're on that left side of the body, which is controlled by your creative right brain. And you come across this in other work, like Grant talks about how Kit Green was studying experiencers and doing MRIs. And yes, it's like something to do with that area of people's brains. And I also dive into this research where the phenomenon may be interacting with people that can further whatever their agenda is. It's almost like in this day of social media, we would call them influencers. So like the phenomenon interacts with people who can influence society and maybe get that sort of message across. And my favorite example of this is, you know, this music research that I dive into. You know, there's messages in the music. Well, yeah, at its base level, it's like musicians that experience the phenomenon write songs about it. But when you look at other scenarios in a broader scope, like music that's downloaded, you know, musicians that talk about how it just popped in their head, or these inventors and scientists that have these inspirational moments, which Grant wrote an entire book about. Is there something truly at play there? You know, there are messages, you know, a lot of them are simple. It's about love, you know, love each other, oneness, coming together, you know, we're all one. You know, some of the other messages out there are, you know, you're killing your planet, you know, be better. So, yeah, I would say there is an influential thing. And of course, it's like an indoctrination of what's okay and what's not okay. You know, is that all coming from the phenomenon, or is it like trickling out from like sources like CIA approved scripts for Hollywood? You know what I mean? So,
Well, given the number of people that I watch talking about this whole thing about the aliens, and everybody going, you know, the aliens are invading, they're going to wipe us out. The amount of people that are quote in touch with the off-worlders and are claiming this are missing two massive factors. The biggest one being if the aliens were planning on invading Earth, the war would be over before anybody knew it had started. Like there just wouldn't be a fight. And this is what people don't seem to get. And every time I hear somebody talking about we've got to fear the aliens, I mean, don't get me wrong. Not all aliens are nice people. As a matter of fact, some of them are downright violent. You know,
I guess how I could end is on this topic of abductees. You know, I think under a different lens in, you know, maybe times gone by, you know, people that interact with the phenomenon were more culturally accepted as special, you know, or having a link to this phenomenon. And, you know, they were kind of valued in their communities, or at least sent to places where, you know, they were surrounded by other people like them. You know, I think historically, I'm thinking of like all the oracles that got sent to Delphi, you know, things like that. Right. Or even, you know, at the turn of the last century, like people flocking to like Lilydale to learn, you know, spiritualism and physical mediumship and things like that. So I think it goes back to people that are in tune, like we were saying with remote viewing, and ET, I think, can pick up on those that have that vibration or, that element to them. I don't follow there's something special about RH negative this, or it's some bloodline that, like, that just goes against like all of this oneness message that I get, that, nobody's special, we're all humans. It's not like this individualistic thing. So why would it be so specific to some like ancient bloodline? Like, to me, that's just so like royalist. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, the whole issue of bloodline, or bloodline and blood type, does come into play, but it depends on what they're looking for.
Well, I think it's more of like that, like, gift of understanding the phenomenon or being able to interact with it can be generational, but I don't think it's because, you have this certain blood type that's mixed with this blood type, or I don't know, maybe we've been hybrid tweaked all along, stuff like that. But inevitably that hybrid tweaking was so long ago that we're still human, Homo sapien.
Oh yeah, the massive majority of people on this planet are definitively Homo sapien.
Right.
They've evolved at different levels, certainly. But I do agree with you that blood type has little to do with it. It depends. Like, if you're trying to figure out how the pancreas affects diabetics, you're going to target diabetics. You're not going to start searching everybody else. Same idea with different blood types.
I guess I should say, like, I don't think it's limited to that. Like, you're not an experiencer if you have that certain thing.
No.
It's not limited to just that. So, and I know there are people out there that just get hung up on that aspect of it, like, and they deny all others. It's like, oh, you don't have the blood type, so you're a big phony, And no, I shake my head at that.
I don't believe in the blood type thing. I really don't. I think if aliens want you, they're going to come and get you.
Right. I've been trying to find where the blood type thing originated, actually. So
good luck with that.
No, I mean, where the theory came about or when it started. You can trace theories like that. Like, the gifting theory started with Jacques Vallée.
Yeah, see, I'm a firm believer it probably didn't start with him. It probably started before him. And he's just the one that got noticed for it.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. Trying to figure out where things start. I look at it going, basically humans find ways to put them to make themselves think they're better than the next person. And by the way, this isn't just humans. I see the same thing in virtually every other race, right? Where they find ways to set themselves in their own mind as better than the next person to them. Whether it's skin color, gender, a particular gene code, a particular tendency, it's kind of like trying to be a member of the in crowd.
Right.
But it's not just humans that suffer from this phenomenon. This is why I tell people that the off-worlders they're not really better than humans. They've just got better toys.
Makes sense. Makes very much sense. But it still doesn't answer how they are choosing, they being the extraterrestrials, whom to take and whom not.
Sure it does. Check the subquantum triphasic magnetic flux. That's how they're choosing it. They're looking at a tiny particle that has a proven potential for them to evolve into a certain pattern. That's what they're looking for in most cases. Whether it be, let's check this person out to see if they have hybridization capacity, like above average. But yes, I realize that came out kind of, Swahili, but
I'm gonna say I will hit peak personal woo for the night, and I will say I have to mention the life contract, soul contract element of all of it, and that is that experiencers have agreed to this scenario pre-life, pre-coming into this meat suit. So you hear that a lot.
100%.
You hear that a lot in regressions. Like once people, like you mentioned, once you start trying to take control of your phenomenon experience, one avenue people go is regression, hypnosis, quantum healing. And yeah, it's countless people that take it all the way back and can remember their birth, can remember being in the womb, can remember, pre-birth and agreeing to this.
And sadly, most of us end up arguing the point after the fact.
Right. I know a lot of people, once they recognize this or come to this conclusion, they're like, well, how do I amend my contract? How do I break it?
It's like, what the heck was I thinking?
But I mean, to go along with it though, like these scenarios often coincide with awakenings, like what people, this awakening scenario with your life, and it is changing, and you run the gamut of happy, sad, it's like a death of your old self and a rebirth. So
see,
lots of things can go on with this.
See, I don't see it as death of your old self so much as a realization of your current self. Because see, your old self dies right off the hop. This is why you can never go back. Why time travel becomes a real hoop job.
I don't know. I've never, I like the idea of time travel. I love it, but I've never played that whole, I would go back and change this, and about my life. I am kind of that person who's like every moment in your life has been a lesson of some sort, or a moment, a stepping stone to something else. So once you start messing with that, in your lifeline, then who knows? That's a roll of the dice, all those scenarios that make you change one of them, and
you're no longer, well, that's just it. Like you can absolutely alter the path you're on. Take a look at where you are.
But then I often wonder, like, can you shake up the snow globe and have those infinite scenarios, but the end result's still the same?
No.
GFG has a question. Whoever uses the name GFG, he's got to. You could tell just by the silliness of the name that this is someone who believes the Toronto Maple Leafs will actually win the Stanley Cup this year. It's absolutely horrific that anybody would believe that.
It'd be even better if the Blue Jays won it.
Well, that would be the World Series.
No. I was referring to the Blue Jays winning the Stanley Cup. That would be fascinating.
Well, they got probably a better chance. Just saying. Anyways, wondering, do crop circles still happen, or was that a 90s thing?
No, that's been a millennium long thing. It still goes on. You just don't hear about it much.
The last big ones I heard about were coming out of the UK. And yeah, I can't even say they hit kind of their peak, I think, of chatter in the 90s. But to me, I think they really started in the 70s. It was like that sort of, that's when in our modern times they started. But yeah, they're still going on now. They do get reported. There are people out there that investigate them and research into them, and whenever they pop up, they put up the bat signal and they all go to those locations. And I think it's fascinating. And this is also one of those things, though, where it's so intertwined with the disinformation and the hoaxers out there, and now the CGI effects that can be thrown into them. But I don't know. I love them. I want to buy a drone specifically so I can search for crop circles here.
You might need a bigger range. Depending
Right.
on where you're living, you might need a much longer range for your drones.
Well, what I've never encountered or been able to find is, like, you always hear about crop circles being in wheat. Like, I want to find cases where they're in like soybeans or corn, where maybe it's something a little more intricate to study the plant patterns or how they're laid down or the node bursts and things like that. So
funny thing is, if you can look into if you can get a thermodynamic tracker, you'll find more.
Well,
not necessarily thermodynamic. You want to look at the quantum fields.
And I know we do, often call them crop circles, and we associate that with fields and farms and things. But, crop circles, in my opinion, is a broad term. Like, I mean, we are talking about possible landing patterns or patterns of them popping in and out of existence if it's not truly landing. Like, you hear these, and I've seen some video, whether they're true or not, where the orbs of light come in and it's like they swirl around and then poof, there's your crop circle. And it's like, wow, did I really just see that? Like, it's so beautiful. And yeah, so whether it's an actual, like, you hear about landing trace marks and cases and the perfect spheres, and it's like, you wonder, okay, was that like a big craft and several little ones and they all came and visited and it's this beautiful pattern that's part accident, or is it like this message that's in geometry and math? And
we have time for one more question here from Thin Lizzy, who is asking, do you think witches have a special connection with aliens, Keith?
Some of them. They are, because they're more connected to the natural order of things. They're easier to make connections with, and it's more with the ancient races that they have a better connection than the aliens. The ancient races being the races that are here, that got here before mankind did. That actually evolved here as well. But the witches are more connected to them than the aliens. Do they have a better connection with aliens? Not really, no. Not from what I've seen.
Nicole, what's your thoughts? Witches tied to ETs or no?
Well, being the Gen Xer that I am and not liking labels, what's a witch really? When we're talking about phenomenology, whether you're a witch or I'm a CE5 ufologist or somebody's, a Buddhist monk that can levitate and meditate for hours. Like, we're talking about the same thing, raising your vibration or doing some sort of magic or a spiritual tradition or something to connect. So I don't think it's special, but I think they can hone in on it.
All right. R Keith Andrews, Nicole Sakach, thank you so much for another great edition of the ET Connection as we continue on with Spaced Out Radio. And when we return, we're going to head into the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller has another spooky story for us. Then right after that, the fedora-wearing John Hudson will return for the Unbiased UFO Report, and Shirky Poo as a setup for the news. Spaced Out Radio continues with Hour 3 next. Keith, you broke your own record for audience.
Oh,
We topped out at 205 tonight.
oh,
on
nice.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Quite happy
hammered
about that.
you hammered your previous record by about 50 people.
Holy shit.
The
I was going to
ET
mention that,
connection.
I mean, I'm quite happy about that. I've got one day on my YouTube channel that is bizarre. Most of them they top out around 80. I've got one on the 24th of March that hit 1,600 plus, and I'm like, what the heck did I do? You know,
Was that before or after you cut your hair?
long after.
Oh, wow. All right.
What was your topic? What was your topic that
I've got to
night?
go back and listen to it because I really don't know. I haven't gone back and listened to it yet. I mean, I keep meaning to, and then I get sidetracked with life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like all of a sudden I've got, and I've only got 204 subscribers right now. Right. But to get 1,600 views was just bizarre.
Congratulations. I like that.
Hi, Alicia. Welcome to our channel. Fantastic show, Keith.
Well, thank you very much. Do appreciate it. And Nicole, I'm really glad you were here tonight because unfortunately that one call, it threw me offline. But
Well, I'm always happy to be here, and that just comes with the territory. You got to take the calls, just like I got to take the catering orders and the
yeah.
TO orders.
Yeah, you do.
Can't say no.
Nicole, are you going to stick around for the unbiased UFO report?
I can, yeah. I'm going
Okay.
the distance. I'm drinking coffee. I can sleep in tomorrow.
Pat OC, welcome to the show. Thomas Rock, welcome to the show. The rest of you who are sitting there silently, we're at 207 right now. We're going up.
Woohoo!
Well, you can't complain too much about that.
I'll be right back.
All right. It's because they love you, Keith.
Which I'm still trying to figure out, but I appreciate it. I am absolutely amazed at the support I've gotten from and that I've received from this show. From the audience in this show. It's just phenomenal. And the reality is, this show could not be done without their participation.
Is your channel R Keith Andrews or Inner Voice Enterprises?
Inner Voice Enterprises.
You got to change that, man, to R Keith Andrews.
Well, I do have. If you search for R Keith Andrews, it'll pull it up.
Well, I understand that, but what I'm saying for you here, brother, is people know you as R Keith Andrews and not Inner Voice Enterprises.
I'm going to have to, when I talk to you next, we're going to have to figure out how to change the name on it without losing all the videos.
Yeah, there is Keith. I just put in the chat room Keith's URL to his YouTube channel. So make sure you go on there, you click on that, hit subscribe. That would be great. And go from there. And where are you at? You're at 204. You're up to 207 now. Yeah, we're gonna help Keith build his channel here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Literally, he's putting out content almost every day. Including how to grow great sideburns like him. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a trick to that. Don't cut them.
Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. How you doing, buddy? Raven McMinn, welcome to SOR Chat. If you haven't hit subscribe on our channel yet, we are like 39 away from 16,000. 39 away. And I want to say a big thank you tonight to Marty, Smithy, Allison, Cliff, Rex, Mr. Crowley ×2, Donnie, Terry, Flash Forward ×2, Flock ×2, and the Doug Shelby for the awesome super chats tonight. Thank you so much. We are 27 away. 27 away from 37. 37 away from 16,000.
Nice.
Keith, we're going to let you go.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me.
You have a good night, my friend. Much love, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Absolutely, Dave. You take care.
We'll talk this week.
Absolutely.
Bye, Keith.
Later, Nicole. Thanks again, eh?
Bye. There goes R Keith Andrews, everyone. We love him around here. You know what? He's a good human. He's a good human. Very good human.
You know, when I listen to his shows, my favorite part of his opening is like, "Hello, I'm R Keith Andrews. Welcome to my humble little office." And I'm always like, "Ah." And then I chop up some vegetables or something.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Hold on, Nicole. We got 4 seconds.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Yonderly. Yonderly is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight where we enter the swamp. Mr. Swamp Dweller is going to join us here and take us on a journey of another spooky story.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. Hello, Swamp Dweller. I hope you are well. I really enjoy listening to your channel and listening to the many different stories you narrate on it, which is why I've decided to share mine. Although I don't know where to start, as it has been quite a long time since this happened. I was 9 years old when it went down. To give you a little background on me, I am a female, currently 31 years old. I grew up in the Middle East, to be more specific, in Oman, which is where my stories take place. I am the second oldest of 4. My father's house is a 3-story villa in a large city that I will not name for privacy reasons. The ground floor of the villa is split into 2 even apartments. Both sides have 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. The second floor is where I and my family grew up, and the 3rd floor is the maid's quarters, and then the rooftop. I remember growing up with my older sister, who suffered from very bad night terrors. She'd wake up the whole house with her screaming. This happened quite often. I'd say at least 2 to 3 times a week. I honestly think for her well-being, my parents sent her to Florida to live with my grandmother when she turned 13 years old. After my older sister was gone, I believe whatever it was tormenting her at night started tormenting me. You see, my father's house becomes very alive at night. We would hear pots and pans clinking, and kitchen cabinets creaking open and slamming shut, footsteps running in the corridors of the house. But when we go and check to see who it is, there is no one there, and everyone is sound asleep throughout the house. As I have mentioned earlier, my sister is gone now. I have recently started hearing whispers. I couldn't make up what the whispers were, as I tried my best to ignore them. However, I believe me ignoring whatever it was made it worse. I remember waking up in the middle of the night feeling like I was being watched. This kept on happening for quite a while. It was happening to not just me, but my siblings. They were also expressing fears. We all went to our parents and told them about these fears, and they decided that they will resolve the issue by buying night lights for each bedroom. That way none of us were sleeping in complete darkness. The night light sure made it a lot easier to fall asleep, and it was okay for a while. Skipping forward to my early teen years, I remember waking up at 3 a.m. because I really needed to go pee. I remember this night very well because it was very engraved in my mind. I woke up looking at the nightstand and the clock read 3 a.m. on the dot. I recall stumbling my way to the bedroom door to open it, and I heard what sounded like running footsteps headed toward the bathroom. Thinking to myself, my sister must be up too and running toward the bathroom. So I opened my bedroom door so quietly and looked to my right, which is where my younger sister's room is. Her door was shut. I thought that was odd. If she was running to the bathroom, her door should be open. I opened her door and saw that she was sound asleep, so I closed it and proceeded to head to the bathroom, which is about 30 steps to the left of my bedroom door. Halfway down the corridor, I stopped dead in my tracks because I started hearing the clinking of pots and pans, kitchen cabinets opening and closing, and that made me call out for my youngest sibling, my brother. As soon as I said his name, everything stopped and I heard the bathroom door creak open. And I kid you not, 3 dark figures with red glowing eyes floated out of the bathroom toward me. These figures were like No-Face from Spirited Away, but without the mask, and 2 of them were so tall. They had to crouch down, creating an upside-down L shape as they tried to fit between the space of the floor and the ceiling. I froze in fear as they floated past me. As I was not even there, it's almost like they didn't even notice me. I was so scared to make a sound that I thought, maybe they just didn't see me. I don't know. I waited for what felt like forever before I turned around to see that they were gone. I didn't go to the bathroom. Instead, I ran back to my bedroom and held the urge to pee until I heard my maid come in and get things ready for breakfast. This is what set things in motion, because from that night or morning on, I kept waking up at 3 a.m. on the dot, always seeing a cloud-like shadow with red glowing beady eyes bouncing at the foot of my bed. I would have nightmares that I'm falling into an endless black abyss and jolt out of my sleep, and of course it's always 3 a.m., and that little thing will be bouncing at the foot of my bed. Sometimes it's the small figure, other times it's the big one. They're always glaring at me though from the darkest corner of my bedroom. This kept on for what felt like forever, until things progressed a bit, and now my bedroom became a playground for these entities. I started to suffer from severe depression, and I would hear whispers telling me to end my life. Things got worse after my parents separated and my mom moved to the United States. My depression got worse, and the reoccurring dream of me falling into a black abyss started to become more and more realistic. I've started to do badly at school since I've started to stay awake all night. These entities started to get into my head, and I've tried to end my life a couple of times, but thanks to my maid, I am still here. There have been so many incidents at my father's house that I'll send to you. I just thought these entities take the cake as they have changed my life forever. I ended up leaving my dad's house and moving to the United States at the age of 15. I have had the falling down the dark abyss nightmares for a while after the big move. I sleep with some sort of nightlight on all the time, and some sort of background noise is always playing these days. Usually it's your show, playing on my YouTube app on my boyfriend's TV. I have a hard time falling asleep and still suffer from severe depression and anxiety. However, I do think it's a combination of the things that went bump in the night and life in general. Now I live in Florida. I no longer see these figures, but I think my experience made me much more aware of the paranormal.
Oh, thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another interesting and spooky story. You can find Swamp Dweller's YouTube channel at youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and you can hear him every night here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to the UFO report. Yes, the fedora-wearing John Hudson joins us from his hidden den in Northern California. And, of course, we also have the lovely and talented Nicole Sakach joining us for the unbiased UFO report. Mr. John, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Dave. How about you?
Well, this is the first time I've had an opportunity to chat with you ever since the breakfast for dinner incident Sunday night in San Francisco.
Yeah, would you notice that fate basically punished you for all your upsetness by having your flight canceled?
Don't even remind me. I had the perfect weekend going until you ate breakfast for dinner, and then the next morning, my flight got canceled. Totally your fault. Totally your fault.
Well, we like to treat our Canadian friends well when they come visit.
Yeah, trying to hold me down. All right, let's get right to it tonight, my friend. No breakfast, no dinner here. We're starting off with the loss of John Lear and his famous Air America.
Yes, and I just, there's been a lot of really nice things said about John Lear, and by the way, hi Nicole, very happy to have you here. It's nice to have another adult. So, basically, if you look at Lear's history, there, you can almost divide it up into sections, and there were periods of time where he was, the guy was like. Someone described him as a swashbuckler, and this really was probably one of the more accurate adjectives I've heard to describe him. And one of the things that he was he was a pilot for something called Air America. Now, Air America, if those of you who are not familiar, was a supposedly mythological airline, essentially run, depending on whose story you believe, by the CIA. And essentially, this was the movie that was produced. It started Robert Downey Jr. Years ago. They did a movie called Air America. Very classic story. Well, it turns out that Mr. Lear was a pilot for that airline. And I had never actually been able to find any proof of that airline's existence, other than, I have spoken to one person that was a passenger. A little while ago, I actually got what I consider to be my first reasonable amount of proof. And unfortunately, for those of you listening, I'm going to have to describe this. But basically what it is, it's a challenge coin. And for those of you that are familiar with a challenge coin, a challenge coin is a lovely tradition in America where essentially a unit or any group essentially can give you a challenge coin that represents their mission and their field of expertise. And then there's all these traditions that kind of go around this challenge coin. And what I have a picture of here is from someone I don't know very well, but I know him well enough. And it is an actual challenge coin that he received from Air America. And that is as close as I think I will probably ever get to any sort of physical proof that airline existed. But I just thought I'd kind of offer that in honor of Mr. Lear, and hopefully you're flying in pretty skies, my friend.
Absolutely. George Knapp put out a very nice tribute to John
Yes.
Lear, saying he first met him in 1987 when he was at KLAS walking through the newsroom trying to get another reporter to pick up the UFO story, and Knapp was like, "Hey, what's this UFO stuff all about?" And then 2 years later, John Lear gets introduced to Gene and Bob being Bob Lazar, and that's how the whole story began in 1989. Nicole, what's your thoughts on the loss of John Lear?
When I think about him and what he really means to our community, he's so much at the origins of our modern day ufology scenario right now. I mean, and I don't know, he's one of those iconic characters almost, to where he's got that element of like spookiness to him, and just, I mean, he comes from money. His father, was who he was, and just having that last name, and knowing a little bit about his youth, and that he was like a bit of a playboy, and he has this whole air of like mystique to him. But then for him to come forward at the time that he did and be so influential, talking about these, I mean, I've always looked at him as like the godfather of conspiracy in our community. So, I mean, and then there's the Bob Lazar element of all of it, and would we even have that scenario of knowing Bob Lazar's story without Lear? No. So, yeah, I mean, it's a sad day for our community anytime we lose an icon. And I think even though he's been like silent over the last decade or so, he's had his moments, and he still sticks to what he says and what he's claimed. And as far as I know, nobody has ever really been able to refute, and come out and say, no, absolutely everything he says is garbage. So,
Yep. Oh, and here's the thing: is he was not always accurate. Okay.
right.
But the thing is that he is a human that basically took what this life gave him and basically put it all at risk to speak what he believed was the truth.
Well,
this is the very definition of a maverick. And to me, it's like, if you're not going to use that, if you're not going to spend that capital on something worthwhile, what's the value?
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds eccentric to us, but I mean, when you're talking about people that have this level of money, this is what he pursued with it. Just like Rockefeller had his Rockefeller initiative, like,
Lear was cut out of the will, though, according to Jim Goodall. John Lear was cut out of the family will.
That's okay, though. I'm talking more of like the connections that are available to you when you have that kind of money.
Yeah,
whether you're cut out of the will or not, you still went to the schools with these people. You still, go to the country club. And
he would not have flown around the world at 16 if he wasn't a
one at a time, guys. One at a time. Well, I mean, John, you were saying he toured the world.
He would not have flown around the world at 16 if he wasn't a Lear. I mean, he had a lot of great opportunities, but he took advantage of them. And when he did experience them, he didn't bow down to, his observations being counter to what was around.
No, very true. But on the conspiratorial side, I mean, in his latter years, John started saying some pretty crazy things, and sounded like where a lot of the younger generation and even some of the old guard were saying, hey, John, tone it down on the irrational conspiracy theories. Even him and Jim Goodall got into it a few times, and they were best friends for 30 years. I mean, does this guy leave this planet with a perfect resume or near perfect, even though his latter years may have been filled with more wacky outtakes than proper knowledge? What do you guys think?
Do you see anyone that goes out with a clean record? And I would question whether that person actually existed or not. I mean, let's face it, right? I mean, it's like, mistakes are just as valuable as success. And so, yeah, he's blown a lot of things. But I think most of what his challenge has been hasn't been necessarily the message, it's been his delivery, which, if it's something you want to hear, comes on very strong and encouraging. And if it's something you don't want to hear, it comes off as a little crazy, and but the thing was is that he I'm sorry, Dave, what was your question again?
Just in regards to, the later in life with his crazy conspiracy theories that he was.
Well, yeah, the thing is that, I think part of the challenge is that a lot of the people from quote unquote the old guard and so forth, I think essentially they become overly reliant on their instincts. And so I think a lot of times they end up, hearing stories that, yeah, they sound crazy, but to them, they sound just as crazy as some other story did 20 years ago. And that one ended up being true. So they're willing to take that leap on that newer story. And I think it just leads a few of them, just to make a couple leaps, off the reservation once in a while. But I mean, the thing is that, for so much of what Lear said, it did end up playing out, or it's still yet to be seen. And the thing is that for me, Lear's value was never the facts that he brought. They were never the facts that he brought. Very few of the facts that he brought were reliable.
It's
right?
the exposure.
It was the exposure. It was the conversation. It was the veracity. It was the passion. It was the fact that anyone was even talking about this stuff to begin with. It was the fact that he made it okay for the rest of us to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Without John Lear, would the Nimitz pilots have come forward? Who's to say?
I don't know if we would know. I don't know. All right, let's move on to topic number 2. Luis Elizondo gave more breadcrumbs, and this was on Linda Moulton Howe about a week ago, but you're learning more about this, John.
Well, this is just to point out that it's still happening, right? The best example of recent that kind of is the heaviest is probably what he did on Linda Moulton Howe, where essentially she asked him if he'd ever personally seen a UFO, and he actually, for the first time, and he'd said, I'm admitting this publicly for the very first time, on your show, happy birthday, sort of a thing, that yes, I have. Yes, basically, he didn't add any kind of colorful language to it. He just said yes, and so for those of us that have been kind of paying attention, it was like, okay, next, but for a lot of people that was a huge thing, and the things he's been doing little things like this, like when he was on UCR recently, they were doing this thing they do where they ask drop it, dig deeper, or he had some other option for it. And they were asking different topics. And when they brought up Roswell, he said, keep digging. And everyone was like, huh? So, I mean, he does this. And he seems to, I think we've gotten to the point now where I think it's reliable that you should assume that there's at least 2 of these in every interview he does.
Nicole, what's your thinking on Elizondo and the breadcrumbs and the Easter eggs he lives on, or he leaves behind on every interview?
Aside from it being purposeful and planned and well thought out, I mean, my only thought is keep them coming. I mean, every time he says, keep digging on Roswell, that's like a fury across our community where all the Gen Zs, go, what? There's more to Roswell? I was built in with Roswell. What else do I need to know?
Yep.
Even I think it was Luis or was one of the other guys. Even one of them on the show said, I personally had been considering that, not worth going after, and now I'm reconsidering. Even they admitted it made them reevaluate it.
All right, Nicole, John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to go to commercial break, our final one of the night. Spaced Out Radio's Unbiased UFO Report with the fedora-wearing John Hudson and researcher and author Nicole Sakach. We continue on with this crazy crew right after this on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. Nice hat, Sakach.
Nice hat, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you get yours? Mine just magically appeared in my house.
I got mine at the Spaced Out Radio store.
That's where I hear they hang out at. You can get them all. I got a Merle t-shirt. I got a El Ovni t-shirt. I got a Wheel in the Night shirt.
I should show you the new shirts I put up today. Hold on. See if they're up.
My original is the Element 115 t-shirt.
See if I put these. I'll show some stuff here. Hold on. If anybody wants a sneak peek at our Vegas logo, for anybody who's going to Vegas, you could go on our store right now and get one of these. This is our Vegas logo right here. Right there.
Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Viva. Viva.
Right there.
Vegas.
Right there. Looks cool.
It does indeed.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Did you send Stormy Daniels one of these We Own the Night hats?
No, I have to.
Yep, you better get on that.
Let's see here. What else do we have here?
It's actually, Dave. It is a cool. I mean, and you know, I might say this if it wasn't, just if you asked me to be nice. But since you didn't ask, you can probably take what I'm saying to be somewhat honest. I actually really like the hat. It's actually a good looking hat.
Yeah, it's like your fedora.
Kind of surprising.
I know. All right. Let's see here. Here's the new Team Lazar t-shirt that we designed. Right there.
Sweet.
Nicole needs one of those.
Nice. I just need some Lazar glasses, honestly. I was looking at some of these frames and I'm like, oh, those look like Bobby L.
Here's the new Merle t-shirt. Right there.
Oh, my goodness.
Whoa.
That's the new Merle t-shirt.
Who did that?
I found that logo on a website called Pixabay. That's a free logo.
That is outstanding.
Yeah, I just got one of those coming in for myself.
That's a lot of colors, Dave.
That's a new Merle shirt.
I remember you specifically telling me you didn't want to do a lot of colors.
Well, I changed my mind.
So what does that mean?
The other ones aren't up yet. I'll hold on. Come on. My store.
Can you do full color pictures?
Oh, that's just. I'm not a robot. Here's the two new ones that are going to be up here. They're unpublished just yet. This is the new Dogman hot sauce. I like that one. I made that one today. And I made this one today for all the rockers out there.
Because Dave, I told you that if you can find someone to print it, I'll let you put that Beatles album up that I did on a shirt.
I just need the logo, man.
When I offered it to you a while ago, and you're like, I don't want to do anything that with that many colors.
Yeah, I'll do it. But I figured a nice rockin' alien would be good with a nice Gibson Les Paul. Yeah. That one turned out well.
Yeah, actually,
All
I have a bunch that we could try if you wanted.
Yeah, let's do it, man. All right. I want to say a big thank you to Thomas, Marty, Smithy, Allison, Cliff, Rex, Crowley ×2, Don, Terry, Flash ×2, Flock ×2, and the Doug Shelby for the amazing super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love that you guys are giving us. And let's see here. So yeah, we're getting some pretty cool swag on the website now. And thank you to all the veterans tuning in and hanging on out with us. We really do appreciate it. Very much so. We got like 5 seconds. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the unbiased UFO report, as well as special guest Nicole Sakach here. And right before the break, we started talking about Luis Elizondo again and the breadcrumbs and or Easter eggs he leaves at every interview. John.
Well, and the thing is that he's actually specifically said he does this, right? So we're technically just taking the man at what he said. He's actually specifically said that he likes to do this. What I'm trying to point out is that I think a lot of people didn't believe him, or a lot of people thought it was incredibly sporadic, or a lot of people thought that they weren't necessarily valuable bits of information. And I think what we're starting to see is patterns emerge where we are actually getting good, actionable information, right? I mean, assuming that you take the information as actionable information to begin with. But, if, for example, someone deciding, to dedicate some resources to Roswell that they weren't planning on dedicating before, because of what Elizondo said, is that good or bad? I don't know, but it definitely shifts the ball.
I would agree with that. Totally agree with that. One of the things, though, Nicole, I want to ask you this, and then we'll move on to the next topic. What do you think it would mean to the UFO world if Elizondo came out as a full-fledged experiencer? We know he's not going to, but what do you think the reaction would be?
I would like to think that it would be like, whoa, boom, kapow, he just came out. And there's all these various repercussions of it. But, going back to the list that I talk about and like of the working group, Cosmic Club, Invisible College, etc., and each variation of it, when you're talking about like level 13, Hal Putoff, and you get all excited, like realizing that, probably 97% sure he's an experiencer, and Jim Semivan's an experiencer, and et cetera is an experiencer, so-and-so's an experiencer, all these people are. So do we flip our biscuits over them being experiencers? No, but does it trickle down to like lowly experiencers like me who like seek out other people? Yeah, it gives me like this warm fuzzy feeling that they're not like dithering in the dark in their research, that's something that links them to me in like a personal way. I've spent 25 years trying to find shreds of my own experience in other people's experiences. So I hope they're doing the same. Like, absolutely.
Is there any more value in them having shared experiences with you than, say, like just random people?
No, I mean, it's a different type of value, I guess. Like, you know,
And I agree with you that it would bring comfort
people,
if they know what you're talking about.
People that are average citizens, you know, that have a curiosity about this can only take it so far. I can only take it so far. It depends on how well you can network and who you know. It's like Lear having access to people because of his money. That's like Dr. Greer in this field. Everybody's like, how did Dr. Greer get his connections to these people that he was able to have access to? Well, I mean, I don't like dragging people's families into ufology, but Dr. Greer's wife is politically connected. So I can somehow see that that's how he would gain access to people.
Well,
You know, it's the same way with them. It's valuable to me because I think them being experiencers gives them a perspective, and they're in positions in this community to take it further. So yeah, I think, you know, is it more or less valuable? You can't quantify that. It each has its place, but I would rather them be experiencers than not.
Even though you might not even know if the group that they had an experience with is the same group that you did.
Who cares
Just
about
the fact
that?
that they've had an experience is valuable enough to bring some comfort that they're going to make reasonable decisions.
I don't think I mean, I've never interacted with Dave's Carl. So
no, but that's
but I mean, you know what I mean? Like
that's part of my question.
John. One at a time, dude, because otherwise it bleeds over the audio.
Go ahead.
Well, now somebody has to talk.
I thought I was done.
John.
Yeah, no, I forgot what we were talking about. Sorry.
All right. Well, let's move on to number 3 here. And that is the gentleman named Dr. Pei on Theory of Everything with Kurt J. Mungle.
Yes, this was just like this interview was well, it'll be very interesting to see what people think. For many of us, this interview was absolutely epic. It was one of the best, most fun times I've had watching an interview, and I can't even remember. But I will say that I've been hearing otherwise. I've been hearing that that people that perhaps have a slant more toward the UFO and less toward the physics found it disappointing. So I'm not saying that everyone's going to like it, but there were some really, really interesting points that came out of it that I think are worth covering. But before I go on to that, how else can I paint the picture? Oh, I mean, I can talk about who he is.
Yeah, please do, because I don't think a lot of us. I don't think a lot of us know who he is.
Yeah. So basically, Dr. Payas is he described himself more as an engineer than a physicist, but he is someone with a good science background who, while working for the Navy, was able to get out essentially 3 patents that are kind of well known in the community as kind of the UFO patents or the Navy patents and so forth. And he then went on to the Air Force, and then he was part of the group in the Air Force that got respun out into the Space Force. So now he's Space Force, and essentially his description of some of the behavior that these craft would be capable of when applying what he's discovered does dovetail very cleanly into several observations of UFOs. So there is a very clear line to the two of them as to why people would draw that connection. But from him, he is looking at it from a physics point of view. How do I build it? Not how do I identify it elsewhere? But yeah, I mean, he's just and then this is the very first time that he's ever been interviewed. And it was one really neat thing about the interview was it became very clear in the interview that basically he reached out to Kurt and offered to do this interview as a thank you to Kurt, because he himself is a huge fan of Kurt's channel, and he watches it so much and loves it so much that when he heard Kurt say that he wanted to get out in touch with him and wanted to interview him, he figured it was the least he could do. And so there was definitely like a tone to the whole interview of real admiration from each of them, and it was kind of cute at times in a way. It was cool. I thought that was very, very cool. But the thing was that a couple other kind of things came out of it that I thought were very, very interesting for most folks. For example, one of the things that he specifically talks about is the secret sauce. That there are things that were left out of the patent, that none of the patent is incorrect, that there's no disinformation within the patent, but that there were certain application aspects of the engineering of the physics that was not included in the patent. And he specifically calls this out as secret sauce. And this was an ongoing debate between myself and many, many others when these patents first came out, because we could all tell that it was not complete, but we couldn't tell whether there was just stuff omitted or whether there was stuff, actually changed for disinformation. So it was nice to have him admit to that. And then we even got an example of what he means, in that essentially, in his invention, they're basically they're basically holding plasma within a contained area, and one of the things he mentioned is that the method that they came up with for keeping the plasma from touching the material is not something he's willing to talk about. And the reason why this is pertinent is because the way we do this in like a collider is with magnetic fields. Right, or in a reactor, use magnetic fields. You're not going to put that strong of a magnetic field around a ring and then put it in an airplane. At least as I understand how this whole thing works. So there's reasons why this is an important aspect of the technology, and he does call that out as something that he does not cover in the patent. The other thing that he talks on that I thought was very interesting was the fact that he mentions that he really wanted the Navy to get the patents because, and he specifically called out that he did not, he signed away all of his royalties for those patents. And the reason why he wanted the Navy to have them, and it's interesting, he specifically says this, he specifically calls out and says that his concern is that if the Air Force were to get it, that the industrial complex mechanism of private companies that would then build it would jack prices up so high that it would just be ridiculous. And as long as I've given it to the Navy, they have negotiating power and they can get the price down. And that was his logic, right? That's a very interesting approach to things and really kind of shows not only his bias, but an insider's point of view of some of the tit for tat and difference in cultures that we see among these different branches.
Nicole?
Sorry, go ahead, yeah, please.
The only thing I would add to that is that the Navy's research and development budget is just astronomical compared to the Air Force's. And when you're talking about what they already have sunk billions and billions into over decades of R&D, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Although I do think they sometimes compete
Air
between
Force
bombers and tankers.
The Air Force seems to be a black hole for anything concerning UFOs. So the more they're out of it, the better.
Yeah.
They have
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of explaining to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally agreed. Totally agreed. Yeah. No, totally agreed. The last thing I wanted to touch on really quick, just because it came up as a question and because it really is kind of core in kind of understanding what Dr. Paez is talking about, is this concept. He gives out the number, but what I'm going to identify it as is the Schwinger limit, and basically what his idea is that essentially that there is a threshold, there is a maximum amount of energy that can exist in a single point, and essentially once you've exceeded that point, this thing referred to as a Schwinger limit, that when you exceed that point, space itself falls apart. Essentially, the very fabric of space itself will be impacted. Now, there's debate as to how it will be impacted, but what he believes and what he believes his patents and his work shows is that this amount of energy, one, can be achieved, and this is widely debated, but he does believe this, and that with these energy levels, he can create essentially a well, an empty space within the fabric of space, and use this to actually. Another way of putting it is, he believes that essentially once you cross this barrier, that a tremendous amount of very spooky physics becomes available to you. Now, there are other people I want to point out that don't believe this. There are other people that believe that once you cross this limit, something really, really, really bad will happen. But, I prefer to be optimistic.
I hope so, too. John, Nicole, thank you for a great segment of the Unbiased UFO Report. Very much appreciated. Both of you can stick around for the news and the after show once we're done the radio portion. But first, let's get to Shirky Poo's news. All right. We've been hearing a lot of bad things about Russia lately, but at least we now know where the perverse Vladimir Putin gets his sex drive. Yeah. We got it all covered here. This is why we bring you this breaking stuff. Apparently, in order to get young Vladimir going, old Vladimir decides that he baths in blood of deer antlers to boost his sex drive. You can't make this stuff up. The 69-year-old Russian president, who, of course, illegally invaded the Ukraine, and the Ukrainians, yes, are doing a good job at casting them back. Well, apparently he reportedly basks in the ritual, which is thought to maximize libido. Extract from red deer antlers acts as a strong tonic, especially for men's potency. It strengthens the body's bones, muscles, teeth, eyesight, and hearing, cures pleurisy, pneumonia, asthma, joint pain, osteoporosis, and problems with the spine. The outlet reports that at least 70 kilograms of stag horns were prepared for his visit to a clinic offering the services in Siberia back in 2016. However, the source went on to explain that while the president was warned that there is no evidence that the ritual is a benefit, he enjoyed it and has repeated the ritual multiple times. Apparently, according to the source, an acquaintance of the president claims that he has been warned that there's no conclusive evidence of the benefits of antler baths, but Mr. Putin liked it, and since then he has revisited the barbaric ancient ritual, which is thought to be dubbed as a natural Viagra, is said to boost male potency, making Vladdy very hearty in his decisions. Hardy in his decisions. Moving on, don't mess with a woman with a tattoo gun. It's just that simple. Yeah. A tattoo artist took to TikTok to share what she does if you say the wrong thing to her while in her chair. Chelsea Taylor recalled the moment she took revenge on a client after he made a comment during his inking. Yeah, Taylor stated, I had a sexist client today to tell me, you tattoo well for a girl. Now he has a hidden penis on his arm. It has racked up more than 2.5 million views, about 500,000 likes, though commenters were divided on the vengeful act and whether it was deserved. You put a mini him on his arm, one person wrote, while another one replied, Bestie, it's probably bigger than the real thing. Ouch. Another one wrote, it's very brave of him to insult the person who you consented to permanently draw something on you. Some, however, believe the artist, who works out of Skin Deep Tattoo and Piercing in Glendale, California, would face any ramifications. Isn't that a little illegal? Asked one person. A second added, you can get sued for this, but okay. Most, however, were more interested in seeing the bonus ink and if they could find the hidden member. Yeah, well, I haven't seen a photo of it yet, so I don't know. I really don't know. Moving on. A California woman who was sick of her boyfriend going to strip clubs came up with an elaborate surprise for him. 40-year-old Missy Peterson apparently tracked her boyfriend of 2 years to a strip club, then showed up and convinced the club to let her dance. She took to the stage in a pink thong and 7-inch platform heels. She said, I got on stage in a bra and a thong that one of the strippers gave me, walked up to him and said, oh, you want a show? I'll give you a show. Adding that she made about $100 in tips that night. She detailed the incident on her TikTok. Of course, it goes viral. Peterson, who's a real estate agent by trade from Laguna Beach, said that their boyfriend had admitted to his love of strip clubs and even said he sometimes had sex with women there. When I saw that he was at a strip club, I grabbed a brown wig and the stripper shoes I keep in my closet, went to the club. He was in absolute shock when he saw me. He was really pissed off. No kidding. But I didn't care. I went to all the other guys, danced in front of them, and collected their money. She then gave her ex-boyfriend the finger as she exited the stage and told him he would never see her again. Well, thank you, Shirky Poo, for the wonderful news. We very much appreciate your time. Thank you to the fedora-wearing John Hudson and Swamp Dweller for coming on in hour 3 with the UFO report and the stories from the swamp. Nicole, Sakach, and R Keith Andrews tuning us on in for the ET connection. And we love having them around here. So much fun, isn't it? We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Odyssey, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That's a good show, people. High quality show right there.
I totally misunderstood that story, Dave. I thought she stayed with him. I was really bothered. And then you got to the end. It was like, oh man, this story is awesome. That was fantastic.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? I don't even, you know
Actually,
what?
yes,
Look,
I can.
my
It's
younger
in
days, I went
vivid
to a lot
color.
of
It's awesome.
strippers. You know, I did. I'm not going to lie. I was like 19, 20. It's what you do. Now, though, no way. No way. I never thought I would believe my father when he said, son, they're all the same. Like, screw you, Dad. Screw you. You don't know. You don't know. Peppermint patty from strawberry shortcake. You know?
I think it does depend on the area.
I don't know. All right.
R Keith topped out over 200 tonight. That's awesome.
That was the first time ever. First time ever. Keith topped out at 205 twice.
How long has he been doing the ET connection?
Like 7 years.
Right? See how long it can take sometimes?
Oh, I was so proud for him.
Gotta grow it.
I kept on watching the numbers go up and up and up and up, and I'm like, fuck yeah, R Keith. Fuck yeah.
Hells yeah. He trimmed the chops. Maybe that's what it was.
I don't know. All right. You got 3 of us, audience. You got 3 of us here. Start posting your questions.
I have a question for Miss Thin Lizzie. If she's still hanging out in the chat. I'm not reading it anymore.
Let's get Thin Lizzie in here.
I want to know if there's anything going on with her dancing ladies that is her backdrop sometimes, because I don't know if she's aware of it, but if they're the dancing Palladians like I think they are, then there's a little cosmic connection there.
I'm sending Thin Lizzie the link right now, and if she wants to join in, she can join in.
I'm so confused.
I watch Thin Lizzie when she's on, and she has this beautiful picture behind her often as her backdrop. Well, when we're talking about symbolism and, dual meanings in our community, the Palladians are a big part of it, and the star cluster, the Pleiades. Well, her picture is the 7 of them as they're often represented classically in like Greek mythology. So I was wondering if she had some sort of story to go behind it, or if she just liked it.
We need some Thin Lizzie time. She hasn't even checked my message yet to grab the link.
That's one thing I hope I'm around for is I want to hear intergalactic gossip. I want to hear one group basically describe another group in a satirical way, but with some warmth to it. I don't want anything mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like I want to start seeing how the different cultures interact and how they blend. To me, that's going to be one of the most interesting aspects of it.
That would be very cool, actually. Very cool. All right. While we're waiting for Thin Lizzie to join us, if she decides, hi, Carbine's right. Let's go to Mennonite Abe here. Why is it the original owners of Skinwalker Ranch, as well as the Shermans, have never been interviewed? Nicole, you're kind of historian on shit like this.
I think they probably have. I think it's under some sort of NDA. It would be my best guess, is that they don't want to talk, or what has happened has been documented by, and I'm thinking of like maybe before Bigelow bought it, that sort of thing, when he was doing contracted research and things like that, that stuff has never come out. So I think it's part of what's been studied and we're not privy to. Just because we're curious doesn't give us the right to access. So that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. My understanding is that there have been some interviews, but my understanding is that it's been private or it's been investigators that were tied to certain things. But the one thing I thought I remembered seeing some short snippet of an interview with one of the Sherman. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe not. But I agree with you. I don't think there's anything easily accessible. And my understanding is they don't want any public contact.
Well, Thin Lizzie's finally seen the link. Don't you worry, never fear. Thin Lizzie will soon be here.
The fact that other physicists were not in agreement with. So the challenge is that it all depends on which physicists disagree with him. And in most cases, other physicists disagreeing with him, I would actually usually take as a positive sign, because it would usually indicate that they feel in some way in danger by what that person is talking about. So the thing is that he. One of the things that I really like about the guy is that it's very clear to me that this is his best guess. This is what he thinks. This is what the data is showing him. But he's fine with it if it ends up being wrong and it ends up being something slightly different that someone else comes up with. He's even fine with not even getting credit for any of it. He's fine with calling it the Schwinger effect or calling it the Feynman effect. He doesn't even need it. He doesn't like it being called the Payas effect. And so, but this, essentially to answer your question, there are a few physicists in the world that if they really took an honest look at his work and they came out and said that they had doubts, I would be concerned. But that hasn't happened to me yet. Hi.
Hey.
Then Lizzie.
My backdrop, I have the oopsies, wrong direction. The Day of the Dead. It might be Gemma with the dancing.
Is it Gemma that I'm thinking of? Damn it. I don't like confusing my ufology ladies. I'm sorry.
Okay. We're both witches too.
Jim and Jade, we're going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I have my Day of the Dead, and then the picture is that I have behind me is the Shining, the one in The Shining, where it's at the end, how it's the formal picture and everyone's attire. So I have that in the back.
Quick side note: does everyone know that there's a sequel to The Shining?
Yeah, Dr. Sleep.
And it actually finishes the story? I had no idea. I just discovered this the other day. I was blown away.
Yeah, I wanted to see it in Estes Park, and that's where the Stanley Hotel is, and that's the hotel that Stephen King stayed at when he was writing. But I didn't get that chance, but I have seen the second one.
Yeah, I really liked the first one until I read about what that actress went through, and I must admit that kind of took some of the enjoyment out of me for that film.
Well, same thing with Psycho and the birds.
Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is, I'm actually, but
Poltergeist.
I'm not someone who doesn't believe that a director should never be allowed to manipulate the actors, right? Because I think in some cases it can be done in a rather polite way, right? I mean, you take for example, Die Hard, right? The guy, I forget the actor's name, but the main villain at the end of the movie, he drops from the building, right?
Takanoma,
right, yeah. And so that was green screened, right? Yeah. But he actually did have a fear of heights, okay? And it wasn't very far to drop. But what the director did is that he said, he said, okay, I'm going to go do 1, 2, 3. and instead of doing 1, 2, 3, he went on 2. So that guy's look on his face is completely authentic. He was that scared. But 2 seconds later, he landed on the ground and knew he was safe. So to me, like little things like that to me, as long as the people going to work for the director know that they're prone to do those sort of things, right? Like that to me, but some of the other stuff I think is more challenging, but that I think is, but yeah, what they did, and like what, when they've had like real skeletons in the water, like, and not told the actors, like, that's just like, what's the value in that, right? I mean, it's like, it's just
that budget cutting costs. It's cheaper to get
true.
the real skeleton than I've seen a lot of documentaries about cursed films and all that stuff. That's another
I
passion
wonder
of
about all
mine.
the mummies that were burned for fuel. You ever think about that? Do you realize how many mummies were burned for fuel in this country?
No, but I guess with the embalming, it would make a good
I've never seen any numbers on that,
kindling or fire starter.
but I've heard it was a real problem for a while.
Yeah.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Thin Lizzie.
Nicole's
What? Like, I
background is darker
honestly
than mine.
My
love
background, yeah, but my face is like I look paler than you.
Well, that's
I have
okay,
to
but
put
no,
it on dark
everyone
mode.
says my
Were you in bed?
dark. So
Me?
I
No, I was watching.
darker
I was-
caves than I do, right? So just saying.
I just don't really have makeup on anymore.
Where's Mr.
Yeah, I
Thin
don't-
Lizzie?
Oh, he's in bed. Yeah, he turned in early. He
How's
doesn't
his
sleep
Gandalf?
well.
Actually, I think I've
How's
done a picture of Davis Gandalf. If I haven't, I will. So there you go.
That's
So,
funny.
Hudson, what was your favorite part about the conference?
Oh, honestly, it was just getting to meet Dave in person. It was just nice to finally meet Dave in person. Yeah, but it was fun. It was good. We had a good time.
What was Dave's lecture like?
Unfortunately, I missed that. I didn't get to see that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, basically, I couldn't stay the night, and I had to take the train up there just for the day. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So
Mm. Is it the BART or is it the mute?
I took Caltrain.
Muni? Oh, okay.
Caltrain.
It's been forever since I've been to San Francisco, but I grew
It's
up
actually-
going there.
If you plan well, it's really nice. It's totally mellow. It's really kicked back. I mean, for me, I like, if I'm not used to it, I'll do silly things like get off at the wrong station and this and that. But but it's no big deal. You just get back on.
Dave, when are you supposed to get your recording from Geraldine?
I don't know.
Are you gonna play parts of it
I
for
might.
the audience?
I don't know. All I remember is I was out. I was completely out.
Well, you must have been, because I mean that was a really nice man bun you were wearing when you came back, and I can't imagine you letting her do that to you.
Wearing a man bun. Was not
Like,
wearing
you
a
keep
man
saying it
bun.
enough.
It's either a
people are
man
believing
bun
it,
or
Dave.
it's
You watch.
Pantera hair.
I call it a soccer pony.
Hold on. Nathan says, I'm new to the show. Dave, can you tell me about Carl? Everyone keeps mentioning him. Okay. On April 20th, yes, it was 420, 2015, I was doing a show on Buddha with a gentleman named Harvey Kraft. And the interesting part about that was I saw something move out the window, and when I put my microphone on mute, I turned and I looked, and on the other side of the window that was maybe 4 or 5 feet away from me, there was this giant gray head with big black almond eyes staring back at me. So I screamed like a schoolgirl and fell back in my chair. And then I jumped back up and noticed it was gone from the window. And I jumped up to the window to look, all in a split second. And he was gone, vanished. So That's how Carl and the legend began.
Dave, I'm gonna pull a card from my ET experience or Oracle cards because I'm like, I wonder where. Do you know where Carl would
About
originate from?
I don't know where he originates from, but I know he's about 4.9 billion miles from here.
So I'm like, oh, you never know. Maybe the cards might show some insight. I got shared your experience. Your perspective is valuable.
Woohoo!
And then there's a handbook in it, but I'm trying to.
Hey, I got those cards.
I like them. Because that's where I was like, I got a feeling. And usually it's like I go with my feelings, with the hunches.
I think mine are upstairs. Don't sit my bum.
That's really, you share your experiences. So it's a coincidence that I pulled that specific one.
That is kind of cool. That is very cool.
Yeah, share your experiences. You have a piece of the puzzle. Every experience is important as we look at the extraterrestrial UFO and contact phenomena coming together and sharing our experiences help us understand the nature of reality and our own existence. It also helps us understand who we are among our other galactic brothers and sisters. This card is encouraging you to speak up and weigh in with your knowledge and experiences. There are so many ways to get your experiences heard. You can share in support groups, either in person or online. Yeah, this may be the sign you're looking for. But yeah, you're already sharing your experiences. But that's a good reminder for other people, to share our experiences.
Share them experiences. Ring those phones.
Just wanted to see if anyone could see this. This is just the best rendering we have of Carl. So he's a dapper fella.
Dapper.
I actually tried to work with Dave to actually do an authentic sketch of him, and Dave's heart wasn't in it. So I'll try again another time.
What are you talking about?
I didn't really get the impression that you really had like a whole lot of interest in capturing him super specifically. Just the feeling I got from you when I was asking you about it.
Who?
Carl.
Carl, he'll be back when he has to be back.
No, you're hearing half of the conversation.
Let me go think about this. Hold on. Let me go pee.
My EBE and I've never seen him in full form. I've seen like this glimpse of like his eyes. But then I have some psychic medium friends who I've gone to for some channelings recently, and they've described him as being very like gaunt in his cheeks and almost looking wrinkled, like he might be elderly as opposed to young. So I try to like sketch in my mind what I think he looks like.
Let me share what I
Well, I mean, if you should trust your gut instincts about what
That's what I try to, lean back on that, like what impression comes to me, and if that description from others feels right with like my core. And
yeah, if it resonates.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, you guys, it's getting late for me. I might have to tap out soon.
This one I did kind of working with Dave and trying to get him to answer questions. And so this is basically the best thing I came up with without putting a whole lot of effort into it. As far
I
as
do
what,
remember seeing like a wrinkled alien though. Like there's a meme of it.
yeah, I have another version of him where he's
That it
shaded
reminds
darker,
me.
and he came off looking too sinister. So that's why I have this kind of I did this kind of lighter one. And the problem is I don't have any kind of training in doing composite sketches per se.
Yeah, like a sketch artist.
But I do have a lot of experience doing portraits. So to me it was not all that different. But yeah, no, it's to me like I don't know how valuable it would be because I don't know how much of what we're seeing is really what we're seeing. But I've always thought it was interesting that that no one's ever seemed to have tried to. I don't know how I'm trying to say this. It doesn't seem like we've ever captured enough information about the faces of all the contacters that anyone's been able to kind of lay them all out in any kind of way to look for any kind of patterns, right? Like, could you possibly see any genetic trends within a certain species? You know what I'm saying? Like anything, any pattern you could glean at all,
I think you need to do some more digging, John, or maybe I can dig back and stuff that I haven't been doing stuff. Because I mean, when you're talking about experiencer case files and they've been dealing with the same entity, and I mean, experiencers often take it to the max and they sketch their own.
Yeah,
there is an evolution or comparing like one experiencer's, sketches with, I mean, like experiencers find each other. So like people who are abducted together, and eventually find each other, compare their notes. And there is some like cross-referencing of are they seeing the same being, and they describe characteristics the same way. And then there's the studies of tall grays, short grays, gray grays, green grays, brown grays, speckled grays. And not just with grays, but I mean, when you're talking like Nordics or tall whites, even the differences in light beings, I mean, there are differences and similarities. So
I also want to do the same thing. I really want to do this for documents. Someone finally did this on a completely different subject, where you take a very large subset of research, and you basically use that to train a machine learning algorithm to look for certain characteristics, right? And then you let it chew on that for a long period of time, and you can really kind of tease out some very interesting things. Like, for example, one of the things you can't, I don't know if anyone's done this yet, but you could train something on Shakespeare's style of writing and let it chew on everything out there and use it to try to find other things he might have written under a different name, or things where people were trying to imitate his style, both ways, right? And someone just finally did this. I just saw the first proof case of this the other day, and I can't remember what the topic was. It was a good example, but I really want to do this for everything that we have in this world, because you take, for example, all the MJ12 documents, right? Forget whether you think they're real or not. Some humans wrote them. What else did those humans write? I would like to take a really close look at those documents and try to figure out, based on cadence, inflection, you pick it, any characteristic you want. What other documents have those guys
You
worked
can
on?
do that with a lot of clandestine documents, though. Absolutely. Especially like back in the day. Like you can even like look for like the little tag of like what secretary typed it. You can find
nice.
You can find nuances, and like if like somebody always leaves out like a colon or a period, or if they use it in certain ways, like you can find that often in documents. And as far as like bulk documents like MJ12 would be conceived. Like you look at what government department cranks out documents for whatever purposes, and
Oh no, I mean using the MJ12 documents as a learning set, and then taking that quote unquote taught algorithm, which is a horrible way of phrasing it, and then
right,
taking it on
and like,
every other
I'm
piece of
saying,
data in the world.
documents that are produced for a purpose for the government come from somewhere. It comes from the departments of means. So yeah, like whatever team is working for that department at the time, I'm sure there's some indicators of what people it is and like what style of writing, like the typeface. Like back in the day, you used to be able to tell the differences between typewriters and generations of this or that, or if there was a mistake in one of the ticker tapes on it and stuff. So there's lots of little nuances you can try to track like that based on like what department put out what and when and whose secretary was what. And yeah.
Well, and with this, you should be able to get down to being able to just pick an individual and then have it search for any document that they might have written, and then essentially rank them based on statistical probabilities and be able to. There's actually a lot of really cool things you could do. Yeah, it's very promising. Essentially, what it comes down to is there is a tremendous amount of progress being made in the data science world. It's been accelerated dramatically over the last 10 years. And a lot of that stuff has not even begun to filter to our world yet. And once it does, we'll be able to readdress a lot of old data and look at it all new. It's going to be, and we're already starting to see some of the cool stuff. Like my favorite Egypt YouTube channel, Uncharted X, guy over there is fantastic. He has just recently started taking LiDAR scans of sites that he visits. So now when he comes back, not only do you get the video of the site and him talking about it, but now you get to look at a 3D rendering of it, and he lets you download it so you can play with it. Freaking awesome.
That is awesome. On that note, though, I'm going to say good night, everybody. I'm going,
yeah, no, you're too.
I get quieter and quieter.
Am I the only Westish Coast person? Like you are all like Central or Eastern, right? Yeah, I know Dave, but Dave's weird. So, but for everyone else, it's like Central. Okay, yeah, because
I'm Mountain Time. I'm like justice for Mountain Time because it gets overlooked.
Yes.
I mean,
it doesn't count.
Yeah, I was born in Minnesota, so I still automatically, it's like Central.
Oh, wait. There's Pacific, there's Central, Eastern. Oh, there is Mountain Time. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Wait, dude, the thing is, it's not very useful to anyone else. I mean, it's kind of personal to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm smart. I can do math, so no
I'm
worries.
not. I mess it up all the time. Every time I want to talk to Melinda Leslie, I'm always off by an hour. I totally am. It's terrible. It's a curse. But I love you guys. Thanks so much. It was fun tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Get some rest.
Glad you joined at the end.
Yeah.
Bye, John.
Bye, everyone.
Easy.
Bye.
Always a pleasure.
Bye, Dave's beard.
Lots of love.
Actually, there's a group called NOAA, North American.
Do they have an arc?
Well, they're the weather people. They're the people that track and catalog all the weather, and they actually collect data on all the weather and they keep it. And turns out that is the largest data set I've ever encountered in my entire existence. Now there are like NSA data sets that I have not been pervy to. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very probable there are other data sets that are larger. But wow, that NOAA one in Colorado is freaking nutty. It's actually a fantastic state for supercomputing.
There's, I mean, for weather-wise, I saw a tornado for the first time in my life last year, and it was far enough away that when we went, because I'm in a fourplex, and when Gary got home, he was like, "There's a tornado outside. Come on out." And I was like, "What?"
Like a real one?
Like from Minnesota. Oh, well, you know, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, there's not really many tornadoes. So I was like, when I looked outside, go on the, you know, open up the door, and then you see a little bit in the distance the tornado. And so we go back in, and I was like, "Do you want to go, you know, go chase it?" And he's like, "Sure." So then we went after it a little bit, but it's like the sky was all greenish gray, and just like there was like a dirt devil like after the tornado. But I'm in northern Colorado, so it's not that common where we are to have it, but it was definitely interesting. I was like, I feel like I'm in the movie Twister.
Yeah, I've never seen one. I've also seen one of those fire ones too. They're made out of fire. Those are pretty neat. Yeah. So basically, thank you. North National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, NOAA. Yeah, really. I used to be friends with the CTO. He left a couple of years ago. I was on a panel with him, debating something a while ago. But yeah, the NOAA folks are really cool, and their data sets are freaking insane. I mean, essentially, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get to the point where they can actually predict weather.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
you know, and the thing is the thing that's so funny about that is that we all kind of grow up. I don't know if kids do as much today, but a lot of people grow up, especially depending on the part of the country or the world you live in. You know, every morning, you know, and every night, you know, looking at weather prediction, right? And then we all go out and experience the delta between the reality of the prediction and the reality of the reality, right? And so we all kind of, I think, get this impression that weather prediction is something that is kind of done by everyone, and it's kind of like somehow somewhat easy and natural, and like people do it. But the truth of the matter is that weather prediction has to be one of the most complex things I've ever seen. Like when you start modeling like these, like, you know, continental size systems.
Mm-hmm.
NOAA used to the supercomputing conference, NOAA would bring this this 3D, this display they had where they had a huge globe, and they would project onto the globe all the weather patterns of the Earth, and it was all being generated real time by a supercomputer. It was so awesome. That conference, that's one of my favorite conferences in the world. The supercomputing conference is like just one of the best things ever. It's so much fun. Very often in Colorado. Very, very often in Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado has it can have interesting weather. One of my friends I went to high school in Minnesota actually lives in Denver. So I always see on his Instagram, like he tracks if any storms come in. And, you know, it's interesting, you know, seeing your friends later on in life having similar interest, or, you know,
Oh, totally.
But this state, I miss.
You're from Minnesota?
Yeah, I was born.
You grew up there?
Raised. Yeah. I moved when I was 28.
You get to answer a question I've always wanted to know.
Because
for people like you that grew up in Minnesota, is Colorado warm?
It's freaking hot. I know. I censored myself.
That's for the fear.
I censored
I'm
myself.
down there.
That is so funny.
But
Oh, that cracked me up.
so the thing about Minnesota, people
Colorado's
don't
like
think
freezing to me.
Minnesota has both extremes. So in the winter, it's extremely cold because we're practically Canada's cousin. But the winter, people don't think it gets as hot as it does. But like when I found my kitten, he was on a couch on a 96-degree day in Minneapolis, and that is hot because of the humidity. Now, here in Colorado, you're a mile up elevation. Now, Minnesota is flat, and so with the elevation, the sun is more intense out here. But
You get higher quality product.
It's a
as a
dry
result of that.
heat, and so it does oftentimes it will be higher temperature than back home, and sometimes it's just too intense for me, where I'm like, I'm not Scandinavian enough for the winters in Minnesota, but then I'm not Mexican enough for the summers in Colorado here.
Yep.
But it's a lot of sun. You know, the mountains are pretty. Not as many sunny days in Minnesota.
Colorado is like, well, that's not fair. I have to say, I haven't spent any time in Minnesota, so I should be careful what I say. But Colorado, I think most people could eventually adapt to. It's a nice place. It really is. Colorado is it's a nice piece of earth to live on for a lot of different reasons. Now the one thing I will say is that I like, to me, it's like, it doesn't almost matter as much like where your place is in the range. For me, it really is how wide the range is and where you live. And to me, like, that's one of the things I really like about where I live, is that it's not that it's necessarily really warm or really cold. It's that it doesn't really vary much. It's like, it's a between around 75 and 65.
Yep.
And then in winter, it might get to 55. And it's like, in like 1 week a year, it'll cross over to 90, maybe 2 weeks, and then it'll come back down. It's like, it's so mild. It's beautiful.
Gary grew up in Hesperia, so the desert of California, and moved to Minnesota when he was 13. So that was definitely culture shock. But
where in California?
Hesperia, by
I gotta say, like, this is, I think, probably the first time in 20 years someone's mentioned a place in California that I haven't heard of. This is cool.
I forgot where it's by.
Neat. Well, yeah, and the thing is that the farmlands.
But he's a desert rat.
Yeah, it's like it's even when you're up further north, like Gilroy area, like, it doesn't look like desert, but it's dry. It's really dry.
Like Dry Toast in his super chat?
Yay!
Probably pretty close, actually.
Thank you, Dry Toast.
Yay!
On that note, we're gonna shut this damn thing down.
Shut it down.
I gotta be up for work in the morning. Some of us have to work.
Got to get up at the butt crack of dawn.
I want to say a big thank you to Dry Toast, GFGFG, Thomas, Marty. I can't even read anymore. Marty, Smithy, Allison, Cliff, Rex, Mr. Crowley ×2, Don, Terry, Flash ×2, Flock ×2, and the Doug Shelby for hanging out in the super chats. Very much appreciate it. After hours this weekend, 8 p.m. Pacific to 11, or 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. And I guess that's it. I'll be doing the website tomorrow night. On behalf of everybody tonight, including the late leaning Thin Lizzie Borden.
Woo!
night.
Woo!
So nice to see you again.
Woo!